Welcome to MELfeed.video. We are commencing a live web stream service via youtube.com from Echuca, Australia. We currently conduct these streams on Monday evenings, with other times to be added as more opportunities arise. Please visit our website MELfeed.video for further information. This web video project presents old and new community TV programs. Please enjoy your stay with MELfeed.video.
Tonight, Victoria's COVID-19 crisis stage 3 restrictions reintroduced for Melbourne and the Mitchell Shire. The border to New South Wales closed and Victorians shut out. This comes as 9 public housing estates remain in full lockdown, and chaos unfolds at our supermarkets. Panic buying seen only minutes after Daniel Andrews' announcement. We'll have special coverage. Plus, the situation getting worse in the United States. Shortly, we'll be speaking to a reporter on the ground in South Carolina. Also tonight, more mass demonstrations after a new national security law was passed by China. Jack Han has the details on what this means for Hong Kong's future. And Kanye for president. The US rapper makes a surprising announcement on Twitter. 6 News starts now. And good evening to you this Sunday. Thanks for joining us. We have comprehensive coverage tonight of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we begin with the latest developments on the crisis gripping Victoria and the major Melbourne metropolitan area, as well as the Mitchell Shire, have reintroduced stage 3 restrictions on the same day Victoria recorded a record 191 new cases of coronavirus. This means you can only leave your house for essential reasons, including buying food and for work and exercise. Also, the New South Wales border has been closed for the first time in 100 years. Shortly, we'll be speaking to a local on the border. 9 public housing estates in Melbourne remain in a hard lockdown tonight due to a spike in cases in those hotspot suburbs. We'll have more on that in just a moment. And Prep to Year 10 students in Victoria will have an extra week of holidays, with the state government announcing that when these students return, they will have their temperature checked before they enter. And if they do have a high temperature, they will be sent home and asked to have a COVID-19 test. And we begin with the situation in Victoria, where there's confusion about how the border between the metropolitan Melbourne area and the regional suburbs will work. Lincoln Holmes begins our coverage.
Police roadblocks just like this one will be in place right around the state as Victoria struggles to contain its second wave.
We really wanted to show our support to Melbourne and Wyndham, especially our neighbours.
The acting Geelong Mayor has sent resources to coronavirus-riddled areas like Wyndham and Melbourne to help contain the spread.
We're really pleased Geelong's not been locked down further. We've only had a few cases in the last few weeks.
The Geelong region has only recorded 2 confirmed cases over the last week, which is why they want to keep Melburnians from coronavirus hotspots out.
We need to be strict from today and try to contain it within our community and just keep our community safe.
King George Fish and Chips wasn't even serving Melburnians before lockdown.
Like an emotional moment, there were a few tears.
Gyms and hairdressers will also have to shut up shop for at least 6 weeks. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
And the situation is even more dire in the United States, where they are fast approaching 150,000 coronavirus deaths. Jackson Gosnell is the US correspondent for Ticker TV. He joins me now live. Good evening to you, Jackson. Did the cases actually rise over the 4th of July holiday?
So our testing is a little bit behind. So at the moment, it is unknown if the 4th of July has caused cases to rise. Here in the U.S., we have about a 3-day waiting period from when the coronavirus test is administered until a result is given. So at this point, it is unknown. It is still too early to tell if the 4th of July is the result of some new case rises. We'll have to see what the tests unveil coming up in a few days.
What about your President Trump? He's been copping a lot of criticism for that rally at Mount Rushmore, hasn't he? What's the general take on that?
So I think his supporters are definitely in favor of having that rally there at Mount Rushmore, while the opposition says he shouldn't have, that he should have been wearing a mask. You know, the Democrats who are against him, it seems that they can't be satisfied in terms of what he does. So I think no matter what he does, he will always get pushback from the media as well as the Democrats as well.
And Jackson, are most people actually wearing face masks and taking that health advice where you are?
So I'm in South Carolina. We are a very conservative state. A lot of people do not believe in new ideas or following any type of advice from government officials. So people here are not really wearing a mask. I mean, if you go to the grocery store, you'll see older people wearing them. But in general, people are not wearing them here. Across the country, I know that up north, a lot of people are wearing them, whilst in the southern states that are seeing these rises in cases, people are not wearing them. So it is kind of evident that the mask slows the spread of this virus, because if you look at case numbers around the nation, you see that in the southern parts, it's really where the cases have continued to increase.
All right, and just before I let you go, Kanye for president, what do you make of that?
I think it's interesting. I was on Ticker Jumpstart a few days ago, and Alana said anything can happen in 2020. I totally agree with that. I think it'll be interesting to see what happens as a result of his announcement.
Can he actually run, though? Because it's pretty late in the presidential race, isn't it?
I don't know at this point. It is late in the race, definitely, for sure. So I don't know how that will come into play, but I guess there is a chance. I mean, he does seem to have a lot of supporters on his Twitter account.
Okay, we'll leave it there. Jackson, thanks for your time.
Thank you.
And panic buying has returned in Victoria, with lines seen outside supermarkets only minutes after Premier Daniel Andrews' announcement about the return to Stage 3 restrictions. This exclusive footage taken outside Woolworths in Kew shows what happened, with stores reintroducing product limits less than 24 hours after they got rid of them. As always, we are being warned not to panic buy, but unfortunately it seems like those warnings are being ignored. The ACT has recorded its first 3 coronavirus cases in a month. Journalist Daniel Pizarro joins me now live from Canberra. Good evening, Daniel. Can you tell us a bit about these new cases?
Hello, Leo. Yes, after more than a month of being COVID-free, the ACT government announced that we had 3 confirmed cases of coronavirus. The cases stem from 2 people in their 20s coming from Melbourne over the weekend before all these restrictions came into effect. They live in the same house with a 3rd person who is now also infected. Now, these people went to the Fishwick markets and then the Westfield in Belconnen, but we have been told that that is a low risk to other people. And so far, we haven't had any more cases being confirmed, although we do expect a lot more testing to happen in the ACT over the next few days. The Chief Minister, Andrew Barr, has announced that anyone from Victoria coming into the ACT will be banned unless they have an exemption. We were also told that planned loosening of restrictions that were due to happen on Friday have been postponed. However, community sport, which is supposed to restart on Friday, that will go ahead. And there was a moment of concern as to seeing whether or not community sport in the ACT would be allowed to go ahead. I play Aussie Rules with the Gungahlin Jets Aussie Rules team, and our season starts next Saturday. So we were concerned that there would be either the entire cancellation or another postponement, but for the moment, it seems to be going ahead. So the ACT government is still advising everyone, maintain the social distancing rules, be sensitive, wash your hands, just do the same things that we've been doing over the past couple of months, and just use the common sense methods that have been in place. And hopefully, we will only have just these small number of COVID-19 cases in the ACT.
Okay, Daniel, thanks for your time. And in some developing news now, staying with those cases in the ACT, we're being told that community sport in the Capital Territory will be further delayed by another week because of another case of coronavirus there. It's believed it was linked to those other 3 Daniel just talked about as a close contact. Moving on, in the New South Wales-Victoria border has been closed for the first time in 100 years. Traffic was banked up on both sides of the border only hours after it was officially closed. Premier Daniel Andrews spoke to Karl Stefanovic on Today, saying he takes responsibility. Take a look.
Premier, do you take responsibility for it, and do you feel any of the pain? Of course I do, Carl. I'm the leader of the state. I'm the leader of the government. No one wanted to be in this position. But again, I don't get the luxury of ignoring this. I don't get the luxury of saying, well, it won't be popular to do this. You've got to make the tough calls. That's what I've done. We'll get to the other side of this, though.
Premier Daniel Andrews speaking there, and for more on this I'm joined live by Granger Lee. He's a local in Tallangatta. He joins me now live from Wodonga on the Victorian side of the border. Granger, thanks for your time. Talk to us, how is this affecting the locals there? Because it really is part of your day-to-day lives, isn't it?
It really is. Although Albury, Wodonga are two separate cities, it very much is one community. And literally thousands of people cross from one side to the other, potentially, every single day, just for work and school, etc. So the logistics, I guess they've learnt some lessons perhaps from Coolangatta and Tweed Heads and down on the South Oz border. So they'll have some challenges just running the stops and checking that everyone has their exemption. And of course, there will be many people without perhaps initially at least, the ability to get those exemptions to get to work. What I would say is that there's no evidence of Corona-19 in this region, and it's a very big region. So I think potentially they could have done the checks perhaps just north of Melbourne, somewhere south of Seymour, and therefore only impact the communities that are absolutely necessary to minimise that impact.
All right, Granger, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, mate.
The end of Hong Kong, those were the stark words from some in response to a controversial new law passed last week. Straight to our Foreign Affairs correspondent, Jack Hahn. Jack, what was this law actually about?
Leo, this law bans terrorism and collusion with foreign forces, but it also bans secession, which is breaking away from the country, and subversion, which is undermining the power of the Chinese central government. Now, these calls that we have seen in the last year, these protests for Hong Kong freedom, well, that could be seen as subversion, wanting to break away from the country. And now with this new law, it could end with life in prison. Now, China says that this is to protect the residents of Hong Kong from these protests, but these freedom fighters called this new law the end of one country, two systems. Leo.
Okay, Jack Hahn live in Sydney, thank you. Staying in Sydney now, and radio station 2GB has made major programming changes since the departure of controversial shock jock Alan Jones. Jake Challinor is the host of Inside Entertainment, which airs on Ticker TV. He joins me now live. Jake, thanks for joining us. Talk us through some of the changes 2GB has made.
Yeah, 2GB has always been an incredibly dominant player in the radio. It's number one every single survey. Of course, Channel 9 took over from Macquarie Media officially last year and installed Tom Malone as the new CEO of Nine Radio. He was appointed by Nine's chief, Hugh Marks. He's been making a lot of changes. The biggest of those changes is Jones' departure from the network, and then of course that moved Ben Fordham into the breakfast show, opening up the drive show. Jim Wilson's come across from 7 News to take on that. They installed Deb Knight into afternoons on the station, so there's been a lot of change at that network, but I feel like it's finding its feet now and everyone's starting to settle in.
We'll leave it there, Jake, thank you. Pauline Hanson has been dropped as a regular commentator on Channel 9's Today Show after comments she made about the residents in the 9 Melbourne public housing commissions that have been fully locked down due to the spread of coronavirus. The One Nation leader calling them alcoholics and drug addicts. This is some of what she had to say on the Today Show.
Oh, come on, Ellie. We've seen food being delivered there. The fact is that a lot of them are drug addicts as well. They've actually met medication. They're getting their medication. They're alcoholics, so they're being looked after that way. They're actually getting paid extra money. Why are they getting paid extra money? For what? They're not leaving the premises. A lot of these people are from non-English speaking backgrounds, probably English is their second language, who haven't adhered to the rules of social distancing. They all use a lot of the same laundry. So the fact is, you've got to look at why they're in that situation.
Now, following those comments, Channel 9 released a statement only a few hours after the social media backlash, saying they welcome diverse opinions, but Pauline Hanson's comments were uneducated, and as a result of that, she's been dropped as a regular commentator in her normal Monday spot. And our Twitter poll revealed that 68% of you say that the Senator went too far with her comments. However, 32% of you say she did not. I'm going to take a quick break now, but coming up next on 6 News, we'll have more on the COVID-19 pandemic gripping America, plus calls to ban TikTok amid fears that the Chinese-owned app is collecting our data. This coming as the app pulls out of Hong Kong. And Kanye for president will show the results of our Instagram poll, asking if the rapper is really serious. Stay with us.
Streaming across the globe, Ben Norris, Rob McKnight, and David Robinson. Ben, Rob, and Robbo. News, reviews, entertainment, it's the Ben, Rob, and Robbo. Ben, Rob, and Robbo. Ben, Rob, and Robbo Show. The Ben, Rob, and Robbo Show, Monday to Thursday at 1 p.m, right here on Ticker TV.
Welcome back. As we told you earlier, there are fears that COVID-19 rapidly spread in the United States over the 4th of July holiday. Jared Taylor has the details.
Florida reported a record number of cases of the coronavirus during July 4th as America celebrated Independence Day. Revelers enjoy the beach at Coney Island in the Brooklyn borough of New York. Officials and health authorities warned people to take precaution or simply stay home on Independence Day, as confirmed cases are climbing in 40 states. We can clearly see the data after this case has shown that the coronavirus is spreading further and more rapidly after Independence Day in America.
Jared Taylor reporting there. There are calls to ban TikTok amid fears that the Chinese-owned app is collecting our data and poses a risk to national security. The popular app is used by more than 1.6 million Aussies, but now an unnamed federal MP has revealed plans to put TikTok before a Senate inquiry about foreign interference through social media. Do you think TikTok should be banned? Share your thoughts on our social media pages by using the hashtag 6NewsAU. Returning to our earlier story, and Kanye West has shocked the world after announcing his quote immediately after tweeting that the rapper received the support of Elon Musk. But many actually wonder if he's being serious. Our Instagram poll that 68% of you say he really means it, whilst 40% of you say he's just joking. It's unlikely that he can formally run given that most states have already closed their ballots, but experts say it is not impossible, so there you go. Quickly checking the weather now. Brisbane rain and 21 degrees, Sydney 15, Canberra 12, Melbourne 14, Perth 22, Darwin 32, Wollongong 15, Ballarat 11 and Hobart 12 degrees. And just before we go tonight, because we are running out of time, I just want to thank all of you for 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. This is something I never thought I could achieve when I started up 6 News. You know, as I've said before, I thought it would just be a little passion project, but it's turned into something that has given me more opportunities than I could ever imagine. I just want to take this time to quickly thank our amazing team for all their hard work. Jack, Darby, Lincoln, Jared, Liam, Seb, and of course my mum and dad working behind the scenes. I won't say too much. We are really running short of time, but yeah, thank you so much for your ongoing support, as always. And that is 6 News for this Sunday evening. You can stay up to date on our social media pages at 6NewsAU, and if you're watching via MELfeed video, stick around because up next is a double episode of, no, actually, NAT Chat, just one episode, then a double episode of Harmony and Diversity. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Have a good night.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Hello and welcome to NAT Chat. My name is Paul Spanos, and today with us we have Maxid, and Maxid, she is an asylum seeker. Something that in Australia land we do talk a lot about asylum seekers. And welcome to our program.
Thank you for having me.
Maxid, can you tell us a little bit about your story, where were you born and your initial journey in life?
Yes. I'm Iranian. I was born in Iran, Tehran, capital city. I was raised over there.
Must be a big city, Tehran, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is a big city, very crowded, very populated these days.
Okay.
Yeah. And too much pollution and too much traffic these days as well.
Okay.
But by the time I was a child, life was not that easy in my neighborhood.
Okay.
So when I was before I think 12 years old, my parents decided to move to United States. We went there and it was such a big experience for me. I had lots of good friends over there. I started learning English. I finished my high school in the United States and started going to college. By that time, revolution have happened in my country, and my father, who didn't like to stay in the United States that much, decided we all have to come back to Iran.
Okay. In what status you went to United States? Was it as a part of, as a migrant you went to United States?
Yeah.
As a migrant, okay.
But we didn't stay there. We didn't stay there. We were applied for having green card and staying there as a migrant, but we didn't finish it because my father wanted to come back. He was insisting too much, and because after the revolution he said everything is okay, we can go back to our own country and continue the life over there. So we all came back to Iran, started a new experience in my country. After a while I got married and started a new journey and continued my life as a translator, business translator, and also translating books and articles in Iran too.
Okay. And how early did you discover that you like doing this job? Because you told me that you like it.
Yeah, I always liked writing, even when I was a kid. I used to write for myself. So when I learned English, I found out that it's a good job to follow, because you have to make somehow these two languages coming along together. So when you have ability to write, you can be a translator too.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you saw it from the practical point of view as well as you liked it as well. Okay. And how was it as a job? Was it a good job?
It was a good job in Iran, very respectful job in Iran.
Okay. And were you successful in this?
Yes, because I liked it so much.
Okay. And what triggered in your mind in Tehran for you to change the course of life and to become an asylum seeker?
Well, as I told you, I had a good job, so I should continue living over there.
Yes.
But it was not only about job. It was for me and for many other people who are seeking asylum, I believe, is because they want to be respected as a human. It's not everything about money. It's not about everything about financial situation. Because in my situation, my job was a high-paid job.
Okay.
But you are not treated as a human being because somebody else wants to control your minds and control your behavior and everything. And I think this is a correct thing. As long as you are not harming anyone, whatever you have in your mind, you are free to have it.
Yes. That means it is. What you're telling me was not really the financial condition.
No.
That
no, because when you're seeking asylum to some other country, you're fleeing your home, you're leaving your loved one, and you have to leave whatever you have worked so hard to achieve. You have to leave it over there. You cannot take all your money with you. You cannot take your property with you. So you come to some other country empty-handed with nothing. So you still have financial problem too, even more.
That's right. Then in this case, you discovering that freedom was far more important than financial comforts in life.
And above freedom, being treated as a human, being free to express yourself and your mind, because when you're not harming anybody, what is bad about what you have in mind? What is bad about whatever you believe? Everybody is free to have any kind of belief they have, as long as they're not harming anybody else.
And what was the event that made you feel back in Iran that your freedom was at stake and it was threatened?
Well, in my case, because I used to write and I used to translate, so initially it came back to writing.
Yes.
Whatever I wrote, 3 times it happened to me. The first time I said, okay, I get along with it. The second time, similar to that. And the third time it was translating 700 pages, which some other writer had wrote it, and I just translated whatever she wrote.
Yes.
So, and they told me from 700 pages, I can only publish 300 pages, which is impossible.
You can only translate 300 pages and because of political reasons.
Yeah, political. What happened to that 400 pages? What should I do with it?
And it was not even your work.
It was not even my work. It was not even my idea. I just translate whatever writer have.
And you've been asked to translate the book.
And I've been asked by government to translate the book, and which didn't have anything with political issue. It was something about animation.
Yes. Then in this case, you saw that your freedom was violated.
Yes.
Okay, and that triggered you to seek freedom.
Seek freedom, fleeing from my country, leaving my loved one behind and my property behind, to be treated as a human. As a human, to be able to express himself, not just being controlled by somebody else, even in my mind.
Being in the United States, what triggered Australia into your mind?
I didn't have any idea I'm going to end up in Australia.
Oh, you didn't even know you
I didn't know. I didn't even know. By the time I started the journey coming to Australia, I knew I'm going. But before, I didn't have any idea I'm going to end up in Australia. For example, 5 years ago, if somebody would tell me you are going to live in Australia, I would laugh at them.
That is very interesting. Please stay with us. We're going to have a short break and we'll be back with Maxid's story shortly.
Northern Access Television will turn 30 in 2020. We are planning a celebration night with a book and a special TV show about our history. If you're a past member or a volunteer of NAT, we would love to hear from you. For more details, visit the website nat30years.info and find out how you can help celebrate 30 years of media for the community. The 30th anniversary of Northern Access Television. Let's celebrate in 2020.
Joy, well-being, community, inclusion.
Special Olympics is a global movement for people with an intellectual disability, creating a world of inclusion and community through sport, where every person is accepted and welcomed, regardless of ability. One athlete, one volunteer, one family member at a time, helping to make the world a better place. Join the inclusion revolution by supporting Special Olympics.
and choose to include.
Welcome back to NAT Chat. Today the topic is about asylum seekers, and with us we have Maxid, and we continue the story. Okay. Now you are back from the United States to Iran. You are a translator, and you made a decision to come to Australia.
Yes.
Tell us about that journey. How did it started and you end up in Australia?
Well, as soon as I made my decision, I informed my husband, which didn't believe me.
Okay.
I didn't get any contact with any person when I was in Iran because it was too dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Telephone, even private telephones are under control. So I came to Malaysia.
Mm-hmm. How did you go to Malaysia?
By airplane. Yeah.
By airplane. Okay.
By airplane. I came to Malaysia. I stayed there for 3 days, and after 3 days, I went to Indonesia.
And that is with Iranian passport?
Yeah, with Iranian passport.
Not a problem.
Iranian passport, because I had many business trips, so it was not hard for me.
Okay.
It was not hard for me. So in Malaysia, I got in touch with people smugglers,
mm-hmm.
and there were a few of them. Some of
in
my
Malaysia
friends,
or in Indonesia?
In Indonesia.
In Indonesia.
In Indonesia. Some
Okay.
of my friends gave them few people smugglers in Indonesia,
mm-hmm.
and I got in touch, and among them I chose one of them.
Mm-hmm.
I did the journey through him,
mm-hmm.
and it was some journey.
Okay.
Very, very, very difficult journey.
Okay, from the time that you have left Iran
mm-hmm.
till the time you arrived in Australia, how long was that?
It was more than 1 month.
Was more than one month.
Yeah.
Okay, and and how long have you stayed in Malaysia?
In Malaysia, 3 days.
3 days.
3 days.
And in Indonesia?
A little bit more than 3 weeks.
Okay, that means it took you 3 weeks process of. How did you feel in Indonesia talking and dealing with people smugglers?
It was really hard for me. I was scared of this kind of people.
Okay.
When it comes to the name of smuggler, you're always scared,
Yes.
especially when you have an ordinary life.
That's right.
You don't have this kind of, if you say exciting, to me it's not exciting.
Okay.
If you have ordinary life, it's very hard to get in touch with someone which is well known as a smuggler.
Mm.
It was very hard for me. Yeah.
Did you trust them?
I had to.
You had to?
I had to.
By force, but
By force.
Did you really trust them inside?
No.
That means you trust the person and at the same time you sustain fear in
Yeah, I didn't have any other choice.
Okay.
I had to trust the person that I didn't trust at all.
Okay. And how many of you were in the boat?
81 people.
81 people?
81 people in one fishing boat.
And were they able to hide 81 people?
No. Very, very small places spaces to sit, even to sit.
Okay, that means on the boat. Okay,
on the boat.
All right, fine. But in Indonesia, how they can sustain you for 3 weeks without being obvious that you're going?
They sent us from capital city Jakarta to some village.
Okay.
Yeah, we were distributed around this village. I was with 2 other family in this villa.
Okay.
Yeah.
That means that people sort of collaborators, and they know that you are an asylum seeker, and so
somehow you can say somehow you can say.
Yeah. Okay. How were the people in Indonesia? How they treat you there?
They were very nice people.
They're very nice people. Okay. And then you paid the money and you went on the boat.
No, the first day I met the people smuggler, I paid the money the first day.
Day one. Okay.
And all that 3 weeks, I was in fear that if he gets the money and goes away, I couldn't do anything.
That's right.
I couldn't do anything.
Yes, that's correct.
I only had a phone number of him, which was mobile phone number, nothing else.
Okay. And then, have they trusted you with the telephone number in your hand?
Yeah, I think they did.
Yeah, they did.
I think they did.
Yeah, they didn't have any other option, isn't it? Because they had your money anyway.
Yes.
They did have your money. Now, going to the boat, tell me how it was, the conditions in the boat.
The condition of the boat was terrible. And even the way we made the journey was terrible, because the night I was going to boat with other 80 people. We passed through a jungle in the midnight and got in the boat. It was horrible. We were in the boat for 9 days. 9 days through the whole ocean, and you just see the people and the ocean and the people and the ocean. Every night I was waiting for the morning, and the morning I was waiting for the night.
What did you come through your mind? What was through your mind?
Every second I was thinking, am I going to die now?
Okay.
Is this the time I'm going to die now? Am I going to die now?
Okay. Did you have any regrets?
No.
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 That means the freedom, sense of freedom was stronger.
I didn't have any regret. Well, if I had to come back to Indonesia and make the trip several times, I would do it. It was really hard, but I made up my mind I should do it.
You really determined. And what happened? How did you feel when Australia boat, the Navy came and approached you?
I saw them as an angels.
As an angels?
As an angels. I think there were about 6 or 7 soldiers who came to the boat in the final moments, who came to the boat and took us to the nave. I saw them as angels.
Look at that.
Yeah.
And how long was the trip to Darwin?
With Navy? With
Yes,
Navy?
with
2
Navy.
days.
2 days.
2 days. But those 2 days was most relaxing time I had all over my life, because I was sure that I'm not going to die. After 9 days in the ocean, I was sure I'm not going to die.
What was the condition of the ship? Was it so luxury condition that you felt so comfortable?
No, not a luxury condition at all. But I loved it.
You loved it.
As soon as I arrived to the nave, we were sitting on the ground. Somehow they didn't have permission to take us in the nave. They didn't have permission to take us, so we had to sit on the front part of the nave.
Yes.
We gave us some blankets, and that was it.
Yes.
Sometimes it was the blanket was wet.
Yes.
But I didn't complain at all. I was very happy with that situation.
Yes, the sense of security was much
I felt
stronger.
security. As soon as I arrived to the nave, I felt asleep.
Okay. We're going to go back to the third segment and talking about in Australia.
Okay.
What happened. We're going to continue after the break to this interesting story.
Every new lion means 2 more hands. Join us, lions.org.au.
Welcome back to NAT Chat. We continue with Maxid, an asylum seeker, and from Iran to Malaysia, Indonesia, through the boat to Darwin. You arrived in Darwin.
Yes.
What did you do there?
As soon as I arrived in Darwin, we went and take a shower, and I was so happy. First, I'm alive. Then I felt very secure.
Okay.
I went and fell asleep again, and for 45 days I was in detention center. These 45 days, I guess, was the busiest days of my life, because because I think more than 200 people from Iran, they were there.
Okay.
And not many of them could speak English.
Okay.
There were times that by the time I wanted to sleep, I had to go to some other room to sleep, because even in midnight, some people came after me and asked me, we want to go to medical, can you come with us? But I was very happy to do it. I was very happy to do it. First, I could help them. Second, it kept me busy from not thinking about what I have passed. And third, give me some experience, and above all, I was happy to helping people from my community as well.
Okay. Can I ask you something? When you approach either the Navy ship, Australian Navy, and or Darwin, what can you point? What is the thing that made you feel secure?
Because I was not going to die. I was so scared. 9 days.
Was the physical conditions
physical
from
condition.
the city? Okay.
It was very, as I told you, it was very a small fishing boat. We were 81 people, no security at all.
Yes, that's right.
It was just fishing boat in the ocean.
45 days in Darwin, and then?
45. And then after Darwin, when they told us we are going to be released to the community, I went to Sydney for 1 month because by that time I planned to stay in Sydney.
You sustained the Iranian passport?
Yes, I still have my Iranian passport. Yeah, I still have it. I went to Sydney. I was planning to live in Sydney. Then I found that Sydney, in my point of view, living in Sydney is very hard for asylum seekers.
Okay.
So I had some friends in Melbourne. They recommended me to come and live in Melbourne.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you did come to Melbourne.
I came to Melbourne.
And then you are in Melbourne for the last 10 months?
Okay, around 10 months, yeah.
Okay, what are you doing now?
Thank God. God opened the way for me. I'm helping my community. I'm doing volunteering. I studied aged care, which I'm doing my placement now. I do collect furniture for asylum seekers. I do plan events for them, and whatever I can do to help them, I do.
You said thank God. That means you are a Christian.
Yes, I am.
What triggered you to Christianity?
It refers to many years ago. By that time, I was born Muslim. And I was 6 years old. I was watching a movie.
Yes.
In this movie, I remember exactly because I was 6 years old, because it was the time before I go to school. Somebody was telling the other person, Jesus has said, if someone hit your face, you should show him the other part of your face. This sentence changed my whole life.
Wow.
All my life, I loved Jesus because of that sentence, and I had his love. Everything about him was somebody telling. I was following them. By the time I was Muslim too, and you can say I was a prejudiced Muslim too. I had Jesus' picture all over my house, and when a guest comes to my house, they used to ask me, have you changed your religion? I said, no. They said, you have Jesus' picture all over your house. I said, because I love him.
That means a sense of forgiveness came straight away as really highlighted on, and really that makes you feel very, very comfortable. And you became a Christian.
Yes.
And now within the community here, what do you see from, if you see an asylum seeker, what do you see as their primary need?
I think the main point they need is protection.
Protection, okay.
Protection in every way. When you go to some other country that you don't have any idea about their culture, their language, their situation, nothing. Even walking in the streets could be fearful to you because you don't know where to go. You don't know. You even do not have the ability to ask someone a direction.
Okay.
So protection in every which way, I think, is their priority for helping them.
That means they feel insecurities and fears.
Make them feel secure.
Yeah, that means we need to. Okay.
Yes.
All right. That means from the host country like Australia, it's
making feel they are accepted.
They're accepted. That's fine. That means the security and the fears that they've got is because they are in a foreign land.
It takes a long time. What do they have? What they have in mind from their background will be vanished, and they feel secure.
Okay, that comes progressively, though, isn't it?
Yes.
How easy is for asylum seekers to find a job in here, or to feel a little bit more comfortable?
Well, it depends on their level of visa. In some level of visa, which is mine too, we are not allowed to work at all.
Okay. All right.
For those who have permission to work, I'm not sure. I don't think they are finding it easy.
Yeah, it is not easy.
Especially for those who cannot speak English.
Okay. Then what mechanisms you found in the society here in Australia that can help you to survive?
There are many organizations that help them. There are many organizations that are very helpful.
Do you, through your volunteer work, have you met organizations? Can you name some?
Yes, there are some of them. Yeah, I'm working for an intercultural center which helps them a lot with learning English, which is the first priority for making communication. And this, if they are able to make communication, they can easily remove the other problems step by step.
Okay. That means that's the best advice we can start off with.
Start learning, start communicating with the people.
That's it. And then from that, at least they can understand what
you
other
can go
people
through
say.
the other problems step by step. When you learn, speak some other people language, when you're living in their country, you can ask questions. Okay, where can I go for applying for a job? Where can I go for doing this? Where can I go for doing that?
Maxid, I am afraid we ran out of time, and I know your story more, and we had so much time to say so few things only. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having
me. And give us the glimpse of your journey. And to the NAT Chat viewers, thank you for being with us. We will be back in next week at the same time.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Alleluia. Om Mani Padme Om. Allah.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Reverend Dr. Sandy Yule. He's a retired Uniting Church minister, and we spoke last week generally about Sandy's background, and some very interesting points were raised. But he also raised the fact that he's written a couple of books, and today we'll go through one of those books, and it's a very topical book because it's relevant today as it was when it was written, and that's Making Peace and Making Sense. Sandy, welcome back.
Thank you.
And I'll leave it to you. You know the background of how this book happened.
Happy to be here. And this book was actually a book that World Student Christian Federation Asia Pacific office and the secretary asked me to write in 1984. And they were producing a series of books on a series of topics. And he asked me to write a book about peace. So it took about 4 years before it was published, but finally that got done. And it was very much in response to the fear of nuclear war during the Reagan presidency.
Yes.
The big times of fear of nuclear war have been the 40s and 50s, and I would say the 1980s.
Yeah.
Because the détente that existed in the 60s and 70s between Russia and America broke down a bit under a right-turning government under Ronald Reagan. However, not to make judgments about that necessarily, but the sense of fear and the need to address what that fear does to us became the catalyst for the book. I went to a study group looking at peace education, where we had a whole series of one meeting. The first meeting we looked at what were we going to put in a peace education agenda. And what we put in the peace education agenda was why war is so bad.
Ah, yes.
And then we realised what we were doing was scaring people witless. And that we had to actually start somewhere else. We had to start with why peace was in fact what life was about. And that war was then a disturbance of life, not itself the focus.
Ah, very interesting.
So actually lifting the profile of peace itself was required. So this book is a journey out of that sense of fear and entrapment by the inevitability of destruction. So you'll find the very first chapters on the nuclear nightmare, and the journey is really recognising what are the responses to the nuclear nightmare, what are the possible responses, fear and flight and despair. So if that's all we've got, is there not anything else?
Right.
And so hope comes in as a fourth possible response. So Flight simply means denial, that you're not going to look at it at all and just hunker down. Fear is there as part of that, and despair is really consciously knowing that you can't do anything about it.
Yes.
And so therefore it just saps the energy out of everything.
Absolutely.
So then the question is, well, how do we generate a basis for hope? And the only way to do that is to develop a positive appreciation of peace and life.
Yes, and from a Christian perspective, of course, is Jesus' salute of saying peace be with you.
Indeed.
So that where did you draw? Did you draw from that as well as other relationships with peace in defining peace?
In the book I had images of peace as the next chapter, and the images of peace are really different ideas of peace that we find culturally.
Yes.
So there's peace as the calm at the centre of the storm. So a lot of chaos going on, but there's peace at the heart, and this is the image of the whirlwind, basically.
Yes.
The hurricane. There's the king's peace, which is the order imposed from the political order, which may be just or it may be unjust.
Yes.
And then the various other kinds of peace. Peace as the absence of war is also there. The rest in peace is the peace of death.
Yes.
Which is a form of peace. So what do we make of that? And then eventually you get to God's peace.
Yes.
Which is somehow from outside us as a gift. And how do you receive it? How do you even recognise it? And the way to recognise it that I was exploring in that book is to face the fear and to go into it rather than away from it. To find out what is there, to know, to understand, and where it's coming from, and to accept our vulnerability to death and to other forces, but not as the only force that matters. Yeah.
With peace, there's natural peace too, isn't there? So that in the natural environment, there is peace.
It's in there under harmony with nature, permaculture.
Okay.
So permaculture as the interaction of all the natural forces in a harmonious way was one of the images. There are 3 or 4 others that I go into in more detail.
Right.
Yeah.
We might go into those in more detail.
Yes, sure.
So,
anyway, that's how I got into the topic of peace. Not from any what you might call ideological statement about God's peace as the answer. It's simply one of the images of peace which offer something.
Yeah, that's a very interesting way to go, because it's an amalgamation of concepts. It's not sort of because you'll get opposition to some particular concepts, but there's always somewhere for you to hang your hat in.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Very, very, very important. And what is it I want?
The real sort of journey of the book was to try to use this process of going into the fear itself, the actual situation that you're in, looking for a way of harmonising it, redeeming it, making it peaceful.
Without being too political about it, we've got the situation now of a Prime Minister wanting to shirt front Putin, and then the interface and the eye holding and stuff that's gone on, like very recently. Does that? You talked about the détente and then the breach of that in the Cold War. Does that ring any bells for you? This sort of potential Putin leaving early, for example?
Well, I think the importance of symbolic gesture as signalling intent is powerful. And so the intent to confront rather than the intent to engage leads us into more confrontation rather than more engagement.
Yes.
Engagement is simply being open to the other so that you hear the agenda of the other better, and then you find if there's anything you can do to meet that agenda in some sort of peacemaking negotiation and conflict resolution. So if conflict resolution is your frame, then engagement. But confrontation suggests winner and loser.
Yeah, and we'll be a loser if we don't go to a break. We'll be back in a moment.
The tax office can take money directly out of people's accounts, but you're not allowed to know. The elderly are being abused and neglected in nursing homes, but you're not allowed to know. The government can raid journalists for reporting the truth if it says you're not allowed to know. It couldn't happen in Australia. It's happening now. When the government hides the truth from you, what are they covering up? Authorised by Australia's Right to Know, Sydney.
This season, we need your help to control Queensland fruit fly in our region. Your infested fruit is destroying your neighbour's harvest and the livelihood of our orchardists and their families. Pick up and dispose of fallen fruit. Infected fruit in your backyard is a breeding ground for fruit fly. Monitor fruit fly numbers by hanging traps in your fruit trees. Traps can be purchased at your local hardware stores. Net your fruit trees and susceptible vegetables with fruit fly specific netting. Contact us for information.
Hallelujah,
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony in Diversity, and we're speaking with Sandy Yule. He's a retired Uniting Church minister, and we've been discussing a book that he's written on making peace and making sense, but not so much to discuss the book, but to bring that into relevant to today. You've got a segment in here, Sandy, which we were talking about before, called Images of Peace. And there's 10 points listed there. One of them is order. How does that manifest itself as an image of peace?
Well, some people think that peace simply is order. So as long as a society is ordered and everybody's following the rules, we have peace. But if the order is oppressive or unjust in any way to members of the society, clearly the order is no longer unambiguously peace. So the issue of justice and whether there is oppression or whether there is a disempowerment of people, and particularly how do you resolve different agendas? If there's conflict between members of society, can the order of society expand to cope with that? And if it can't, then is it really peaceful?
Okay, and order is often used by politicians around election time. So law and order has got some interesting connotations.
Law and order is appealing to people to rely on authority to provide peace, and that peace is more often than not the imposition of order on everybody. It's the rich and the poor alike are forbidden from sleeping under bridges.
Yes.
In the order in which we inhabit.
Yes.
So the justice of the order is very important. And that goes into all sorts of areas, financial and other power relationships.
Well, you've got the recent development in the United States of it being an offence to feed the poor at certain levels, which I'm not talking about that because that's someone else's problem. But yes, it's that some people suffer under order.
Under certain kinds of order, yes. And every order was likely to have some blind spots and some injustices built in, if it's humanly created.
This opens the requirement for governments to be well informed about this. Some of what you've been involved in has been one of those information sources, would you say? You're doing the research and passing it to the government through a roundabout route.
Oh, well, I think the church is doing that. I wouldn't put myself too much into that. But certainly the churches are doing that, and that's a very important function. And the welfare arms of the church are very well placed to know the real story about the poorer people in our community. And so their voice needs to be heard well, not just churches, but welfare organisations generally.
Yes, well, yes, that's right. And that raises the issue of sort of, and we had alluded to it before, the public relations component for church activities on a proportional basis. What would you say the balance looked like between the secular and the religious component?
Well, if you add in all the voluntary support and components, the church is very, very strong.
Yes.
Anyway, going on to the other images of peace, which I think are also important, non-violence is important.
Absolutely.
And particularly where non-violence is used against a higher power that has the monopoly of violence. So non-violent protests are powerful because of the message that they highlight.
Yes, yes.
And it's the influence that you want from a non-violent action not the imposition of anything. You don't impose things through non-violence, but you can influence. And you can certainly highlight issues and support victims.
Yes.
And that leads into the issue of sacrifice, that the whole matter of making sacrifice is part of peacemaking.
Right.
Peace is made because people put themselves on the line to see that it happens. And that's partly soldiers, so
Yes.
that's the more obvious side of sacrifice. But I think there's also sacrifice on the side of people who speak up for victims and perhaps themselves become victimised.
Yes, and that's the end, because basically at the soldier end, unless they're volunteers, they're actually doing the job they're being paid for, so that's hardly the point. But so if you come back and you say, right, well, these silent social volunteers, they are a driver in this.
Can be.
Yes.
Can be, certainly.
Yes.
Yeah. But it's more the actual recognition that sacrifice is meaningful in the modern world.
Yes.
It's an old word which used to mean certain things, but in the modern world I think it needs to be rehabilitated.
Yes.
It's a making sacred of certain functions, and the function of being a voice for the voiceless.
Yes.
So standing up for victims, standing against evil, standing against bullies, etc. That involves sacrifice.
So some of the issues that might fall into that category, we've already addressed one of them. That's the refugee element of it. Is there any other which sort of leaps forward in that?
I think any situation where there are victims and vulnerable people, and other people are standing around and may or may not get involved, this issue is present, whether recognised or not.
Yes. Well, violence against women is pretty current at the moment, and as you say, there's a myriad of others.
It's a fairly universal matter, and that's why I think it's important to see it as an image of peacemaking. The willingness to sacrifice for the greater good of the society, and particularly for those victimised within society or some other process.
There's whole issues of loneliness, of age, disability. As you talk, it expands, and
yes, it does.
That really does relate to order, doesn't it?
Yes,
because
it does.
if those are falling down.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the order needs to include these elements within it: the conflict resolution, the non-violence, the hearing of voices, the communication, and the sacrifice. If that's all given space within the order, then it becomes a living, breathing order, which is peaceful, or potentially peaceful, if the peacemaking works, which it will be much more likely to do than if imposition is the order of the day.
Order of the day. Yes, this is there apart from the organisation you've been involved in, what other organisations feature in bringing this together?
Well, one of them that comes to mind would be Amnesty International as an example. They're just about the voice, raising a voice internationally for prisoners of conscience. It's a great example.
Yeah, and my conscience wouldn't let me rest if I don't say we have to go to a break.
Bad luck.
We'll be back in a moment.
Which one are you going to get? This lady? Boy. Oh, you can't look. Just a minute. Okay. Alright.
Just needs a bit of discipline. Can I help you with your bags?
Thank you.
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Sandy Ewell. He's a retired Uniting Church minister. We're talking about all sorts of things, but at the moment we're talking about Making Peace, Making Sense, which is a book Sandy wrote quite some time ago. But what we're doing is bringing that forward into a current context. In here under studying peace, you've got a topic which looks pretty fascinating, which is teaching about horror.
Yeah. It's really teaching about fear, because horror overwhelms us. Once we really experience horror, then you get frozen, you can't think, your responses are automatic and often bad. So it's to do with the freezing and the fear, and how can there be intentional work to become, as it were, more focused and stronger in the face of things that are horrible. And we're flooded with them from television news nowadays.
Absolutely.
And some of them are natural disasters, but many of them are humanly made disasters, and the sense of enemies who are out to get us, and the fear that starts to inculcate even in us in comfortable Australia. So is there a way that we can, as it were, build up our resistance to that fear? Because the fear will lead us astray and make us respond, I think, negatively.
Yes.
What's needed is actually some method of bringing that reality into images that are truthful, where we are able to see a little more clearly as to what is really going on. What is the agenda of the other? What is valuable in that? What isn't valuable in that? And what are our resources? What can we do about it? Where are our allies? What is it doing to the whole world? Those are the sorts of questions that help us to actually formulate a response. And once we can formulate a response and start to test it out in even small ways, our ability to respond grows, our sense of empowerment grows, and our sense of peace is likely to re-emerge.
Is that response, is that formulated in any way that you could talk about some of the issues?
I think it depends on the issue. I mean, I can remember a time when I was very afraid of the possibility of being, so to speak, set up by some enemy organisation. I won't go into detail, but the fear was there. I could really sense that. So for me, the pathway through that was to recognise that I was being got at and I was being afraid, that it wasn't necessarily manipulative, just part of the way things were, and that I was vulnerable.
Yes.
That there wasn't anything I could do to forestall an attack if somebody did take it into their heads to put a bomb in my car or, do something else like that. But it wasn't all that likely.
No.
And over time, it settled down as an attitude where acknowledging it was there was enough. And then the fear itself was no longer overwhelming.
Yes.
So it was actually a way of going into the fear and through it in that particular sense of fear and threat. Right. But every situation is likely to be different.
Yes.
So it's more a general recommendation, I think, that intentional work, creating an analysis and I think even through images, and this includes a lot of reading where you read science fiction and fantasy novels where dystopian societies are portrayed very interestingly, and how people actually found a way past that.
Yes.
Those are the kinds of resources that help, I think.
Yeah, I'm minded of the fact that there's also fear itself is a fairly constant factor, but the level of fear, like the level of fear of changing jobs, the level of fear of death, or moving suburbs, would it be, or do you deal with the fact of dealing with those lower level fears and looking at the common grounds between those and the higher level fears?
Yeah, it certainly helps. I think it's the same sort of dynamic in each case.
Yes,
actually.
Yes, that's it's a major issue. You mentioned media, and that's highly irresponsible. Some of the stuff that they do. Is there anything being done about that? And when I say being done, I don't mean confrontations here. I'm talking about sort of studious research to try and manage that.
I think there is, but I'm not very much aware of that or part of it. But I just think it's a very difficult issue for the media. I mean, if something is put up as an image which sends a message, then media generally say, well, there's a message there. The public has a right to know, and that's not bad in general terms. But sometimes the message is so fear-inducing that then people start to say, well, wait a minute, do we really want to be carrying this message? And I just think it's a hard choice. I don't see an easy answer for the media, It's simply that there are plenty of people who have learned to use the media for these kinds of political and terrorist purposes, and they want to terrorise, and they do. Now, how do we as a society cope with that, and how do we deal with that? That's a current issue. That's exactly in this ballpark.
Yes, it is, and that's why this is relevant today as it was when you wrote it. I'm minded of risk management, the risk management process of likelihood and consequences, and that's an amazingly unfamiliar process for a lot of people. But even learning at that level of likelihood and consequences helps as well.
It does help. It does help.
You know, it's worry about meteors. The likelihood of being struck by a meteor or is pretty remote, but the consequences are dramatic.
Horrific.
It's like vaporization and all sorts of stuff.
Yes.
So another point, just following from that, in working with images, imagining a world without weapons, how does that fit together?
Well, I think it's one of the more interesting consequences of sociological theory, you know, which says, well, society in a way is held in place by the ideas we have in our heads. And these are collectively gathered so that we have the same ideas, therefore we can interact as a society. And language helps us to hold all that together. But if society has certain dysfunctional elements or unjust elements, how are they addressed? And one way of addressing them is to say, can we actually imagine another set of relationships, another language, and how far can we go with that? And it is actually interesting to be in a group which takes 2 or 3 days to try to develop a collective scenario which is better.
Now, John Lennon approached that in his famous song, Imagine.
Indeed.
Now, we're going to imagine if we had time forever, which we don't. We need to finish, but I'd really like to talk to you again next week. Would you be available?
Yeah, sure.
Thanks very much, Sandy.
Sure.
Thanks for watching. We'll be back next week and we'll speak again to Sandy Yule. We'll see you then.
Shanti Om Allahu
So how have things been going?
When a young person is diagnosed with cancer, it affects their family, their friends, their entire world. Red Kite supports young people with cancer and those around them in real ways.
Yeah, hi, it's Michael. Yeah, I'm at the hospital.
We rely on your generosity to make a positive difference in the lives of thousands of families every year. We can't always make things better, but with your help, we can lighten the load.
Behind your favourite team, there's another team. At all levels, in all codes, sports trainers are working to make sport safer. Sports trainers learn injury prevention techniques from doctors and other health professionals so they can provide the right first aid when the going gets tough. If your team could do with a sports trainer, maybe it's time you got a little closer to the action. Find out how you can become a sports trainer. Sports Medicine Australia, providing the team behind the team.
Harmony in Diversity is next on MELfeed Video, followed at 9:30 p.m. by Spirit of Life. Then stay with us for 15 fabulous minutes, Red Lobster Poetry and Transports of Distant Delight. That's what is still to come tonight on MELfeed Video.
Hallelujah.
Welcome. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Reverend Dr. Sandy Ewell. He's a retired Uniting Church minister, and we've spoken to Sandy in the previous two programs, and this program will be speaking to him about shamanism, and we'll be using as a reference a book which he's written called The Burning Mirror, which looks at shamanism on a pretty much from an historic perspective. Thanks for coming back yet again, Sandy.
Happy to be here, thank you.
Now, this is an unusual subject. Did you find a shrunken head, or what was the situation? What started it?
It started out of the teaching I was doing in philosophy in a teacher's college.
Okay.
With a colleague, we developed an alternative first-year philosophy course based on miracles, psychic phenomena, and life beyond death. And it was really an exploration of alternative worldviews of science, magic, and religion. So we had to go looking for stories that made credible each of these worldviews. And I discovered that many of these stories were in fact from shamanic communities, particularly around the area of magic. I didn't really have a sense myself of what those stories were really based on, how true they might be. Whether I should be interpreting them simply as symbolic, or whether there was something more going on.
Okay.
So that was the question that taught me enough to write the book.
Yes.
The interesting thing was that I didn't have very many encounters with actual shamanic communities, and my method of research was much more through both books and through other sort of what you might call 21st century people who had more experience and involvement with shamanic communities than I had.
Yes.
So it was a little second-hand in terms of the actual shamanic communities that we have in the world today. However, it was basically a book of philosophy asking the question about spirit.
Yes.
Where and what is spirit in the world? So a very general question.
Yes.
And how do we know truthful things about spirit? We are ourselves, I do believe, spiritual. So there's a certain amount of introspection necessarily involved. But we also hear the testimony of other people to their inner experiences, or basically their experiences, some of which are very strange. And how do we make sense of those stories? So one of the real resources were the reports of initiation of shamans.
Okay.
The actual journey that a particular person took to become recognised by his community as a shaman. So that was one of the things that impressed me greatly in the research. But I found that it connected so much with most of the other spiritual problems and questions that I had already encountered in other contexts.
Right.
So that's partly the breadth of the book. It's not absent the kind of socio-political concerns, certainly not absent the historical concerns. I developed the view that the shamanic tradition has preserved some of the earliest human spiritual formulations, both of idea and of practice, that have then developed throughout a history into the particularly different religious traditions of the world, and probably also the different magical and other traditions. However, some have, as it were, grown up organically in the same direction as shamanism, simply taking all the experiences and making them into something.
Yes.
And I've mentioned Hinduism and Shintoism as two possible examples of that. And some have developed by a critical separation within spiritual matters between good and evil. So some practices and possibilities are labelled as evil and avoided in favour of some other practices which are labelled as good and of the good spirit. And Christianity and Judaism are clearly examples of that. Islam, I think, also.
It's also spun off into things like Wicca as well, hasn't it?
Well, Wicca is I think, both early on, Wicca would have been the shamanism in Britain and parts of Europe in a more elaborated form. So that's one of the traditions that I would see as organically growing out of traditional shamanic understanding and practice.
Yes, I think that's an appropriate observation. So the beginning, is a place where you sort of put a tick and you say, well, that's where it began. What's the early stuff that you've come across?
I think it's really shrouded in the mist of time. I don't think we can be too sure about that. Partly because it's so much a matter of inner reporting. So unless you have actual reports of some sort from early people, all we've really got are the myths and the stories, and they're very interesting and I think very helpful, and they do show a lot of understanding, allow us to see a lot about what was probably true then. But both Bible stories and many other old cultural stories are about the best we've got, I think. But nowadays we've also got I think a much wider array of stories that have been collected in different ways to give us a better access.
Contextualising it is a major issue, isn't it? So is there a process for doing that, apart from just historical analysis, etc.? Is there some sort of line that you can follow of known?
Well, I think firstly in yourself you have to have an openness to what the stories are telling, and find some map in your own experience that at least mirrors something of that. Otherwise you're not going to get very far. So it has to have that degree of reality for you, I think, to make a positive engagement with it. I don't think it's something that you can study simply as objective fact.
No.
And it's not like a scientific investigation of that sort.
No, that's so tenuous, isn't it? But it really reflects that issue of the proposition that we are, as you alluded to before, spiritual beings having a human experience. And that's been what's been repeated back into the past, as far as you can feel.
And I think it's important in terms of epistemology to distinguish between first-person experience, my own experience, second-person experience, the testimony of others about their first-person experience, and third-person experience, which is observation. Science does very well with third-person experience, but there's a systematic ignoring of what is to be gained from first and second-person experience.
Well, my experience is good enough to know, Sandy, that time expires and we'll go to a break. We'll be back in a moment.
Hush, little baby, don't you cry. Daddy's gonna sing you a lullaby. When you're sleeping safe and sound, you've got the proudest dad in town. I remember when I first saw you, your heart beating as you grew. We'll read you stories to help you dream. Your mommy and I are a perfect team. I can't wait to hear you sing or watch as you put on a wedding ring. One day you'll have children too. Remember the times I sang to you.
Hallelujah.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Sandy Ewell. He's a retired Uniting Church minister. This first, second, third person experience of these experiences, that's a very interesting concept or issue because, in my view at least, the surest way to kill a spiritual experience is to start to try to describe it. So how does that fit in with these ancient stories as they come through? How reliable has this evolution of the story been? How being retold and retold and retold?
The story's only as good as the story. So the story is a gateway which you can either go through or not go through. And to go through it is to engage, to treat it as something to enter into imaginatively, and in a sense to let it speak to you and show you things that you may not have been so aware of before. And usually it will. That's what I regard as the proper way to deal with the old stories, and it is a pathway into something like the shamanic experience.
Yes.
Most of us Westerners don't do it in the same full-blooded way that shamans do, which is boots and all and total exposure and total vulnerability to the spirit. But we do it.
What sort of training, you know, and I'm sure that the different groups have different training, but just one example of the type of training that a shaman would go through?
Well, I mean, most of the stories that impressed me were stories of people going into an experience where they nearly died. And it may be an actual disease that nearly killed them, or some other situation, or it may be an imaginative experience in which they imagine their own death. And then they are remade by some powerful being and given new powers. And in some of the traditions they're actually given signs of this, like crystals in parts of the body that they imagine they have been received. And that gives them a certain kind of power. You know, what do you make of that? Well, listen to the story.
Yeah, but that's fascinating, because if you read the Christian saints, many of them were very ill and died very young from their illness, and yet their insights and their almost shamanic experiences are memorable. So maybe there's a parallel there.
Oh, I certainly think that it's a human potentiality which shows up in all traditions in different ways, and the traditions have an influence on it, but do not create it.
No. And perhaps it's that willingness to surrender to it, not allowing it to be created by anything other than your own connection with it.
Yes. Now, I'd like to talk about what happened to me in doing this story. I started with the question, why are Protestants afraid of meditation?
Okay.
And I came to the answer that because Protestantism arose at the time where there were witch trials. And the witch trials were the time in Europe where the shamanic tradition was suppressed.
Right.
Because it was open to the wild spirits of nature. And that was thought to be of the devil by the Christian authorities. And in some cases it was clearly used for rather negative purposes as well. So it was not a clear judgment, yes, the devil was there, no, the devil wasn't there. But this was the way it was shaped at that time. So just the fear of being labelled a witch was enough to make Protestants not so keen to engage.
So they tended to step back from mystery
into rationalism, into a more rational approach generally.
Right.
That's my hypothesis. Yeah.
And it certainly explains, I'm not suggesting that Protestants did this, but why witches found themselves being dunked in water and drowning and boiling in oil and all sorts of stuff.
These were the tests. These were the tests for witches, and they're very strange, very strange tests. But the whole encounter with the witch hunt in Europe is the place to look if you want to see what happened to the old shamanic traditions coming into modern Christianity.
Oh, that's very, very pertinent. Just to jump forward into the present day, do you see any of those fears of shamanism and that allowing the self to flow? Do you see that fear arising?
Well, I certainly think that the fear of witchcraft is actually a buried one that we don't even have very consciously anymore, but it's still there in our culture, I think. And the answer to bad witches is good witches, rather than no witches.
Yes, but because the fear of witchcraft is actually one of its powers as well, isn't it?
Yes.
Within the tribal context, the shaman's power is generated from fear.
It's all mixed up, and it's hard to get a clear understanding of it for that reason, that you can explain it as simply fear-based. I think it's different from that, but that's certainly an element in it.
Yes, it's mixed. Now, you've got a section in here where you've dealt appropriately with the Australian Aboriginal context.
Yes.
Pointing the bone and all that sort of stuff that went on, but there's a lot more than that.
There is. Yes. I don't know those traditions or own them in any way to talk clearly about them, but I respect them. It seems to me there's a lot there to learn from, and it is a matter for Aboriginal communities, to teach us, what is And I think the judgment of them also is for the Aboriginal community primarily.
Yeah, but you'd recognise it as shamanism, though.
I use shamanism to mean an intentional encounter with spirit.
Yes, yes.
That's the broader understanding. The ethnologists talk about shamanism as only in North Asia, one of the local traditions. But all of the local traditions in the world, I think, fall under this same broad spiritual understanding, where there is a methodology for intentional encounter with spirit.
Yes.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, you mentioned before meditation, which is in popularity is sort of on the rise. Now, how effective do you think that is?
Meditation is one of the ways of seeking an intentional encounter with spirit that's available in our culture. And if it's well done, it's there. It happens, and things are valuable in that practice.
Yes.
I think there's superficial forms of it which don't work, or certainly don't make for an intentional encounter with spirit. But nevertheless, it's a good thing.
Yeah, so I think the emphasis on the material, the emphasis on the analytical approach, in my experience, I've watched people who have had what clearly seems to be a spiritual experience like that, but because of the inhibition of the language to capture it, and then the rejection by the people who are listening, it gets pushed down.
Exactly.
It doesn't come up. And I'll get pushed down too, because time is creaking. So we'll go to a break and come back.
Okay.
We'll be back in a moment.
Hi, I'm Lane Beachley. Australians have recycled enough printer cartridges to cover Bondi Beach 12 times. That's kept 11,000 tonnes of valuable resources out of landfill. Drop your used original cartridges into the special boxes at participating retail outlets, and they'll be turned into new products, from pens to road surfaces. Help us keep up the good work. Find out more at cartridges.planetark.org.
Take it from me, one punch can be lethal. Thrown in anger like this, without warning, without any gloves, it can be deadly. One punch can end his life and ruin yours. It takes grunt to throw it, it takes guts to walk away.
Welcome back. You're watching Harmony and Diversity, and we're speaking with Sandy Yule. He's a retired Uniting Church minister, and we're talking about shamanism. In this book that you put together on it is titled "Burning Mirror." What's that about?
Well, it's an image, basically. The mirror is an image for consciousness, particularly in some Buddhist traditions, and the burning is really the pain of self-awareness and proper self-knowledge. And it reminds me of the Lord of the Rings, where they have the far-seeing glass things that you see through, and one of them you actually see the death of the man in fire through that. So that was one source. It's also the title of a film by a colleague, Di Bretherton, about going back to Vietnam and seeing the war from the enemy's point of view, so to speak, and the pain of our national self-discovery through that process. So those were the kind of ideas behind it. I talk about it in the book in more detail. But, yeah.
You actually raised the point about some of the movies that are on at the moment. They are heavily mystical, aren't they? So there's that. Do you think that's an unconscious return?
I think there's a great deal of need for popular exploration of the spiritual questions. And we do it through concrete images, as usually, and films are good at this. They make it more concrete, but they also co-opt it to some extent, so that you're then not able to access your own inner images in quite the same powerful way that would otherwise be the case. So that's the danger of them.
But they open the doorway to possibility.
Oh, we do, yeah.
And so this is a major thrust for coming in connection with this shamanistic approach is to allow the possibility. It's fascinating stuff because it's woven into religion as we know it to be.
Yes.
But perhaps more concealed than perhaps it should be. I'm just looking through your index here again. Is something which grabs me is Enlightenment Revisited. What context is that in?
Well, this is actually a work of philosophy.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to use rational tools to understand the spirit, knowing that that's not fully possible.
Yes.
So revisiting the Enlightenment is to reassess, what was the actual openness within the Enlightenment teaching of philosophers to the reality of spirit, and there is some openness. It's in the edges and corners, but there is some openness. So it's more a matter of saying, if our secular worldview and materialist worldview is the dominant one, where are the gaps? Where's the crack in the cosmic egg that we can go through in order to re-experience spirit? So it's partly an attempt to look at that.
This is so basic and so critical, really. Do you envisage, or are you aware of any way that young people, children I'm talking about here, are either left open or opened to this potential of possibility?
Oh, I'm sure that a lot of children, particularly those who grew up in the country, close to nature, have developed their own sense of reality, which is more open to just the feel of things. And that feeling of things carries something of spirit.
Yes.
So I know of a number of different sorts of stories about children in that sort of context. And there are people who've been working at teaching meditation to children so that the children become more conscious, both of what they already know and of how they can, as it were, open that out positively and with some confidence.
Yeah, in some cultures, the shamanism was an inherited process, so that presumably the child would grow up in the context of the father and as a consequence be prepared for that different awareness.
Yes. I think it's different in each place. I don't think there's any one real story about that.
No.
But the pathway into the shamanic experience is usually surprising. There's usually some sort of crisis that is the catalyst for a deeper level of awareness.
Your point about the fact that there are so many different pathways and so many different cultures involved works against it being raised to a level of awareness which it deserves. Once again, do you see anywhere where this is happening, where it's coming together and there's a vein of awareness of this?
Well, I think the New Age movement was trying out a lot of these things, and some of the experiments that were done in that time were quite positive. I think there were some other things that weren't so positive, but nevertheless, in the New Age movement, was when I was writing the book, was where I was in fact participating in order to have certain kinds of experiences or look for certain kinds of experiences, some of which seem to work. Lots of stories that are in the book will answer some of that question.
Yes.
I think it's a detailed question.
Yeah, it is a detailed question, and this is a highly detailed and abstract subject as well.
Yeah.
But I'm looking for the bridge between this awareness which you've created in this and religion, say, in Australia.
Look, for me, the outcome of doing the book was that I became more wedded to Orthodox Christian understanding.
Yes, right.
And that's because this book pointed me to the depth out of which that understanding originally grew.
Yes.
And I can now feel that and see that in a way that I never could before.
Oh, that's very interesting. So, well, thinking about, say, the Old Testament, for example, and a lot of the stories in there, that
a good example, Moses lifted up the serpent in the wilderness to heal the people who were being bitten by snakes. Those who looked at the serpent survived, the image of the serpent. Those who didn't. Now, what's that all about?
Yes, that's right.
I mean, healing is a great source of shamanic stories, stories of spiritual healing. Always strange and hard to know, particularly if you weren't there.
That's right, and often they work.
Often they work.
For whatever reason, they work. and it's the context of how much is a sort of the effect of the mind, the mind's conviction that it will work.
Well, that's one element, but depth psychology tries to map the similar area, and there are dynamics there that are spiritual.
Look, we'll have to leave it there. Those dynamics that are spiritual. Thank you so much for discussing this. It's a fascinating subject.
I'm glad you find it so.
Well, indeed we do. So much. May interview again if that was possible.
Certainly would
sometime
be.
later. Thank you very much. You've been watching Harmony and Diversity. We'll be back next week. Bye for now.
Baha'u'llah, Shanti Om, Allahu
So, you think you're ready for this?
To take on the world? Why not?
If you were living on the streets, wouldn't you want more than just your best friend to keep you safe and warm? Donate to Backpack Bed for Homeless and give warm, waterproof protection and dignity tonight. Call 1300 OzHelp.
For over 80 years, the Royal Flying Doctor Service has been providing a mantle of safety across our vast land. Last year alone, they attended to more than 250,000 patients and flew over 23 million kilometres. That's the equivalent of flying to the moon and back every fortnight. Whether it's an emergency rescue, delivery of urgent medical supplies, or an air ambulance transfer to a major city hospital, the Flying Doctor is always out there for everyone. Let's keep it that way. Donations to the Royal Flying Doctor Service can be made online, by cheque or by calling the number on your screen now. All donations over $2 are tax deductible. So please give generously and help keep the doctor flying.
RSPCA, for all creatures, great and small.
Wow, she looks like she had a big night.
Yeah. Nice glasses, Alice.
Hey, Alice. Do you want me to put the blinds down?
Autism. Change your reactions, change your actions.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
Spirit of God in the clear running water, blowing to greatness the trees and the hill. Spirit of God in the glimmer of morning, fill the earth, bring it to birth, and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be but breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Hello, welcome to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Andrew Hinge. He's the Communications Coordinator of CMS. Welcome, Andrew. It's great to have you in the show.
Thanks, Geraldine.
Yes, what is CMS?
CMS is the Church Missionary Society, and we send missionaries all over the world to preach the good news of Jesus. And we've been around for a long time, so over 200 years
Wow.
since it was started in England by none other than William Wilberforce and others. Basically the Victorian chapter basically started late 1800s. So we've been in here in Victoria for over 100 years. And so we send missionaries all around the world for long-term cross-cultural work to preach the good news.
Fantastic. And you're the Communications Coordinator, so what does your role entail?
I primarily look after a publication called Boundless, and it's designed to help mobilise the next generation of those that will go overseas for long-term cross-cultural mission. And so that's about to be released, and it's very exciting because I get to interview lots of different people, missionaries, past, present, and possibly future. And but I also look after social media and other things, day-to-day duties as well.
Amazing. How does it fund itself?
It's all funded by churches and supporters, so it doesn't receive any government funding or anything. So people that are engaged in the work of I want to partner with people who want to send who are going. And I want to partner with CMS because they're sending people. They really get they really get a bee in their bonnet about that, and they want to support us. So
okay, so it's like the friends of the missionaries,
correct,
and the churches from
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. And how does Wilberforce? How does he influence this CMS?
Oh, right. I think, he was part of a group back in the late 1700s, and they, Australia was the new colony back then, and they kind of looked at it and they thought, yeah, look, we need, this new country needs a Christian influence, and we definitely need to send some people over there. And so that was a big part of what went on there. And Wilberforce, that was kind of his passion at that time. He had a little bit to say about that. But yeah, it was other people, of course, as well. And William Wilberforce, of course, was famous for abolishing, his life's work was to help abolish the slave trade in the UK and the Commonwealth, which was amazing work. I'm very proud of the fact that one of our strong Christian forefathers was very influential in abolishing the slave trade. It's something that's fantastic, and I think we can all be very proud of.
Yeah, that's fantastic. It's amazing to think someone as famous actually kind of thought of Australia and said we need to go there.
Yeah, absolutely.
And are the missionaries in any way similar to Wilberforce?
I think our charter hasn't really changed much over the past 200 years. We're gospel focused, so gospel priority, biblically based, long term, and in-depth training. I almost forgot the last one.
And what about, often people hear of missionaries as also doing practical things like feeding the poor. Is that part of it?
That's part of it for some of them, but it's primarily gospel focused. So it's primarily getting alongside people, getting to know them, and preaching the good news, getting Bible with them, asking them to come to church, all of those kinds of things. So
okay,
yeah.
So it would be reading. They would meet someone on the street and start talking to them. What sort of strategies do you all use?
They're all very different. Some of them are doctors, and they sort of meet them in any number of ways, not necessarily patients, but some of them are involved in other work as well, and they just meet them through that, or on the streets, as you say. Some of them are tuk-tuk drivers who are taking them to and from airport or certain locations, that kind of thing. So it's all different ways that they meet people.
And how much time do they spend doing their day job, or is that their day job all the time?
It's generally that's their day job. Yeah. And I think it varies for each missionary. Yeah,
I see. And if people are in practical needs, how do they what do they do?
If they have practical needs, So a couple of them do practical needs-based jobs like surgery and that kind of thing. But often it's, if they can help them, they will help them. But it's not the primary focus of why they're there.
So they're not social workers or that sort of thing.
Course. But they will help as much as you and I.
Yeah. So it's a relationship, you say, because of the one-to-one sharing.
Yeah.
So it's not usually like preaching from a pulpit, but it's more one-to-one, or it can be both.
It's generally one-to-one. So it's very relational. So that's one of the things they're taught in when they're doing their training, that they have to get alongside people and be very relational and sort of. I think that's a real difference, because when you actually get side by side someone and actually talk to them and actually open up and try and get a feeling of what makes them tick. That's different, and it's inspiring to know that there's people out there like that. So
that's fantastic. So it was something you're passionate about.
Definitely, and it makes my job so much easier to actually be inspired myself and be passionate about these issues and getting these issues out there and the stories and that kind of thing.
That's great. We're going to go for a break now. You've been watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us and we'll be back after the break.
I'm able to dream, I'm able to smile, I'm able to grow, and I'll go the extra mile, one day at a time. So put your hands together, we can change lives forever. Together, we're able.
Able Australia. Together, we're able. You're there when they can't sleep. You're there when they forget. But who's there when they're at school? Asthma can be serious. It affects 1 in 10 Australians and claims 400 lives each year. Does anyone at your school know what to do in an asthma emergency? Log on to asthmafriendlyschools.org.au and find out if your school is asthma friendly. Shouldn't every school be asthma friendly?
I was in my 40s when I was first diagnosed with bowel cancer. George, my son, was 6 years old at that time. These days, like people of his age, he's very busy, but he still needs to find the time to get to know his bowel cancer risk. Is that right, George?
Yes, Dad. Bowel cancer affects 1 in 12 Australians, young and old, and is our second biggest cancer killer. But if caught early, bowel cancer is treatable and beatable. My dad is living proof of that. So get to know your bowel cancer risk. Talk to your pharmacist or GP about screening. Protect yourself and the ones you love. Go to lovemyfamily.org.au.
Imagine not seeing the world you live in. Macular disease is Australia's leading cause of blindness. Donate now to Macular Disease Foundation Australia. Call 1800 111 709 or visit mdfoundation.com.au.
Love, love, oh dear, I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Hello, welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Andrew Hinge. He is the Communications Coordinator of CMS. Hello, welcome back.
Hi, Geraldine.
It's great to hear about your work, and now I'd love to know more about your, I suppose, coming to the Lord. How did you get through that conversion?
I actually, it was actually through a youth group, actually, and my old friend Matthew Anstey, who's now he's now a doctor of many different theological things, biblical Hebrew theology, linguistics, and all of those crazy things that I don't quite understand, but he knows the language of Jesus, that Jesus spoke very well. And but back then he was a lowly youth leader, but he was very good, and you know, he there was an altar call, and I some of the, you know, the scriptures just jumped off the page, and it just sort of hit me, and so I you know, I just decided that Jesus was for me, and you know, that I wanted to be saved, and I wanted to dedicate my life to the Lord, and yeah, it was a very exciting and a very beautiful night, and ever since then, you know, I've been trying and failing to live a life worthy of the Lord.
Wow. And what were those words that really touched you?
I think just that we're all sinful. That I think one of my favourite stories is Lazarus. I think it was actually the story of Lazarus that night, and Lazarus was Jesus' friend, and he had died, and his sisters were mourning him and asked for Jesus to come back and heal him, because they knew that Jesus could do it. Anyway, by the time Jesus got there, he had died, unfortunately, and you know, he went to the. Long story short, he went to the cave, and said, "Lazarus, come out." And Lazarus walked out with his grave clothes on and everything. He was alive again, and he was called back from the dead by Jesus. And this just shows me Jesus' power, but it also shows me that Christ is calling all of us out of the grave. You know, that I was at that time when I was when I chose the Lord at youth group, I was very you know, I knew something wasn't right inside myself, and you know, and sin was the answer. That, you know, it's not a popular thing to be talking about these days. People don't like the concept of sin, but yeah, you know, I definitely was convicted that you know, that I was sinful and that I needed saving, and that Christ was good enough to die for me. That He's amazing. That He's sinless. And He died for me, and I think that's pretty amazing. In fact, these days I often can't read the words of Christ in the Gospel without sort of tearing up. I have to admit, because the Bible is an incredible book, and the words jump off the page, but especially the words of Jesus.
Wow. So when you say you felt you should have to be saved, and He died for you, why do you have to be saved? I mean.
Well, because there are just things that we do that don't please God, and God is a God of order, and He's definitely got a moral code. He's got a moral code that's actually very good, and very good for us, and very good for society. And when we break that moral code because we think we know better, we're actually putting ourselves above God in a way, and and we're not above God. I'm definitely not above God.
Yes.
I have to step down off that pedestal and put God on the pedestal. It's almost like an Olympic podium.
Yeah.
I don't deserve the prize, but Christ gave me the prize anyway, which is eternal life. So I'm very very happy and lucky and blessed to be called.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I have in the past worked with people with drug problems, and sometimes they think, "Oh, why not? You know, if it makes me feel good." And I like the part in the Bible, like you said, that is that we are the temple of the Holy Spirit, that we cannot abuse our bodies. You know, even though it feels good, and often they say it won't hurt anyone. You know, it only hurts myself. But we are the temple, and after they do it a few times, they get addicted, and you know.
Yeah, it's very sad.
Yes, and young people there's consequences too. But I hear, but that's inspiring what you went through. And so with that, I always am interested to hear how God speaks to people. How do you think God speaks to you?
Every morning at 5:30 in the morning, when my cat gets up to go outside, I open up the Bible, my app, and I'm going through 3 chapters a day, and through the Word of the Lord. So through the Scriptures, and for me, I've been reminded recently how very holy and how very sacred the Scriptures are, and how that they are the words of God. They do jump off the page. They're the living, breathing words of God for me and for everyone else. And so I always feel that God is speaking directly to me very, very much. I've got an intense relationship with God because of what I read in the Bible and how I'm convicted in my heart, or how I'm encouraged through the Scriptures in my daily reading.
Wow. So if you read something like God loved Lazarus, so somehow you would relate it to God loving you. Is that how you do it?
Maybe. I mean, not necessarily. It's kind of if something else has been going on in my life, there's either a confirmation or a non-confirmation.
Oh, wow.
So it's sort of, God helps make sense of God helps me make decisions through the Scriptures, but also teaches me and directs me, to keep the Sabbath holy. I'm reading the Numbers and Leviticus at the moment, so it's very God's very serious about these things.
Yes, we need to go for a break, but it's great. You've been watching Spirit of Life. Stay with us, and we'll be back after the
break. Every time you shop, the choices you make affect our community. It is important to select Australian products made by Aussie-owned companies. Our food security means quality and peace of mind. Your purchasing power keeps your dollars multiplying in our economy, keeping jobs, profits and decisions being made right here, which is better for your children.
So the next time you buy, look for the AusBuy logo. It makes all the difference.
This bank is helping to save lives. Every year, 500,000 Victorians have no idea where their next meal is coming from. Food Bank Victoria works with farmers, supermarkets and manufacturers to make sure their surplus stock ends up here, to be distributed to those in need. But all of this is not enough. Right now, this bank needs interest, your interest, to support Victorians in need. If you can help, visit foodbankvictoria.org.au.
Most of us experience life's ups and downs, but we can always appreciate the finer details that make life worth living. But for 1 in 5 of us, mental illness can make us lose sight of the big picture. That's when Paran Mission can lend a helping hand. We've been caring for the community for over 60 years, finding a place for people with no place. Show your support and stand up for mental illness. Visit our website and make a donation today.
I was diagnosed with Parkinson's at 27.
I was 46.
I was 62.
The first symptom I noticed
Was loss of balance.
Was that I was always tired.
was a loss of smell.
The most difficult thing for me is not to be able to travel in my retirement.
The most difficult thing for me was giving up a career that I loved.
The hardest thing for my mum was being pregnant with me.
Love, love, until I feel the breath of the Spirit flowing in me.
Welcome back to Spirit of Life. My name is Geraldine Lee, your host, and our guest is Andrew Hinch. He's the Communications Coordinator of CMS. Welcome back, Andrew. Now, you spoke very passionately about the Bible. With that, you've started your own or you're part of a Bible study group. Can you tell me more about that Bible study group?
Absolutely, yeah. So I'm part of an ecumenical Bible study group, and that started because my wife was working with this guy, and the guy called my wife up and said, I know all these people who want to start a Bible study around people around our age. They're all different denominations. So we started off in our house, and 10 people came up from all different faiths, and it's an ecumenical Bible study. So we've got about 70%, I think it is, about that Catholic people who come to our Bible study, and the rest of them are Protestant of all different stripes.
Excellent.
But yeah, it's a real blessing, and I actually got a real love for people of different denominations when I was working with this other organisation, and I met this Catholic guy, and he kind of turned me around on people who were Catholic and made me really love them, and kind of thought, they're really good people. They're really good people, and I'm going to kind of, honour that, Lord, and thank you for teaching me that. And I really like the fact that the Lord has brought us all together. It started off with 10 people, and now about 25 people have come. But there's less people that come each. There's about 10 people that come each week.
Wow!
But we've got it's growing, and it's amazing how God has brought us together in unity, whereas there is such disunity out there in the world, and I think the Lord has plans for it. So it's very exciting.
Yes, yeah, I have a heart for also interdenomination. I run a singles and theatre group, and I love that scripture that says, oh, how good and how loving it is, or something similar, when brethren do dwell together in unity. Do you know where it's from?
No, but I've heard it. The one that I use is there is neither Jew nor Gentile, slave nor free, male nor female, but you are all one to Christ.
Yes.
And that was I think that's from one of the letters, one of Paul's letters. But it escapes me at the moment too. But we're all one under Christ, and I think that would be something that we could really show, everyone in the world how to have a bit more unity. If this grows, that would be amazing.
Yes, and with your Bible, do you all have like a set program that you use each, like from a book or something? You follow a kind of structure?
Yeah, absolutely. So we order these books from Koorong, and first one we did was the life of Jesus. So sort of introduction to Jesus, and there were several Bible studies you do. But we also all agree on the Nicene Creed. So the Nicene Creed's pretty, and the Apostles' Creed is another name for it. That's really interesting. That's something we can all agree on.
That's good. Very good.
And we all focus on the stuff that we can agree on rather than the stuff we disagree on, because
that's wonderful.
We love it.
And you all have like a bit of food and supper and fellowship?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we just go to people's different houses every week, get a different leader as well. So we've got a very flat structure. So, we're all leaders. And yeah, so it's very exciting in that way, and we all make the decisions as well. So
excellent! And you started this?
No, it was kind of started between my wife and this other guy, but you know we're all.
And have you got a name for it?
Not yet.
Yeah.
So we're all sort of still thinking about that.
Okay.
So.
And so are you all open to more people joining, or have to get a bigger place?
Oh, I think so. I think we will be. We haven't really discussed it, so I don't want
to say anything.
But watch this space. Watch this space. So we need to make a decision on that in the group. So, but yeah, watch this space.
Yeah. And how do you interpret the Bible? You know, is that something that you all have differences of meaning? You know, how you all interpret the Bible?
Do you mean how do we sort of read? Do we read a chunk first and sort of go through what it meant for those people in the past?
Yeah, that sort of thing, or the context, or or you take the words literally, you know, all those sort of things. So I suppose those are different styles you discuss. Yeah.
Well, in the Bible study, we kind of have a set study, so we
just
kind of
let that guide you.
We just let it guide us. But but I think but when I interpret the Bible, it's always sort of in context. Read a large section. And think about what it meant for the people at the time. Think about what it means for me. Think about what it means for society, and then pray about it. So that's the main strategy that I use.
Oh, wow. Can you give an example of either a verse or something, and to how that has touched you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think there's one of the Psalms, I think it's Psalm 19, is the heavens declare the glory of the Lord. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Day after day they pour forth speech.
Oh, wow.
And just looking at nature and looking at how beautiful our earth is and what God's made and what God's done, you know, that verse really touches me. It just shows me how much God loves us because he's created this beautiful place for us, that I'm also one of those things because I'm fearfully and wonderfully made, and so is everyone else. You know, if ever I'm doubting, or you know, if my wife's ever doubting, I always say, God never makes rubbish. God just doesn't make rubbish. And yeah, and that's a flow and effect from that Bible verse.
Oh, I can see you're passionate, and I love your love for the Bible. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I wish you all the best, and God bless you.
Thank you.
You've been watching Spirit of Life. Stay tuned next week. Goodbye, and God bless you.
Bring it to birth and blow where you will. Blow, blow, blow till I be much breath of the Spirit blowing in me.
Dad, we need to have the talk.
What? You going to talk to me about the birds and the bees?
No, Dad, no.
Don't be shy about talking with your parents about the facts of life, that people over 55 are at an increased risk of drowning. They need to know their limitations, be aware of medical conditions, avoid alcohol, wear a life jacket, and learn life-saving skills. Have the talk with your parents today.
William Tyrrell was abducted from his nana's home on the New South Wales mid-north coast on the 12th of September 2014. And somebody knows who did it. Do you? There is a $1 million reward for information that leads police to William. That's 1 million reasons to make the call. Contact Crime Stoppers now. 1800 333 000. Make the call.
I got my big break about 5 years ago.
My big break came 10 years ago.
I got my break about 8 years ago.
If you're over 50 and have recently had a bone fracture from a minor bump or fall, you may have osteoporosis.
If you've had one break from osteoporosis, there's a good chance you'll have another.
Find out more, talk to your doctor, or call Osteoporosis Australia today.
Don't wait for your next big break.
Multi-faith and interfaith is all part of harmony in diversity. Every Monday night at 9. Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV.
Backstage here, lots of goings on. We're here for the opening of Melbourne Spring Fashion Week, and I tell you what, the outfits are very, very skimpy. The girls won't be wearing much on this launch. What are you doing? You're opening it?
Yes, emceeing it. So
how'd you get that job?
Not stumbling over too many words, I hope. Well, I do some work for the City of Melbourne, so it's all a City of Melbourne initiative.
So how exciting is this week going to be?
Very exciting. It's very Derek Zoolander.
Oh, really?
Have you seen that film?
Every season?
Blue Steel.
Blue Steel? Or are we going for the Magnum look?
Magnum, I shouldn't even be talking about it.
Not the Magnum look. No, you're not going to do any shows? You're not going to monitor this stuff?
Well, no, I'm not keen on getting out there in a bikini and stuff.
Today's not probably the day for you.
I'll leave that to the girls who are 6'3" and have length up here.
So are you comfortable in a bikini?
Yeah, but on the beach when no one's sort of looking.
They're not looking. That's the thing. I'd say they'd be looking. If you're in a bikini, they'd be looking.
Oh, no, I don't think so. They might be thinking, that girl is so pale. It's beyond belief.
Join the club.
We've got a leopard splice curl in the front, which is...
Leopard spice curl.
Splice curl.
Oh, okay. A bit of animal there.
And apparently, I've forgotten your name. Akush.
Akush
is going to wear a leopard.
So we're going very matching here. Are you ready for this? It's a bit revealing, isn't it?
Of course, I'm ready for it.
You're ready for it. Now you've got hair extensions?
No, we've got blonde splice curls at the back as well. We've got an extended hairpiece at the very nape of her hair, so she's
quite layered.
Yeah.
So how long has it taken to do this?
Oh, about 10 minutes.
10 minutes?
Yeah.
L'Oreal are pros, you know? All legs. Now I just noticed that. Here's this slipper thing we're talking about at the front.
Okay.
Did you get a say in what you wear or not?
Yeah, I've seen them. I went for a fitting on Friday.
So if you don't like it, what do? Do you say I'm not wearing that or?
Not really, not with me. It's different from different models.
Yeah.
If some they can say I don't like it, but I guess
can't? You've been told to wear that?
Yeah, not really been told. It's, the designers, they know what's matching with the model, you know what I mean? So they got the knowledge for it.
So what size are you?
10.
10? Get out of here. Now, where's your outfit? Can we see your outfit? Oh, well, let's go.
Outfit.
Where is it? It's on the rack somewhere, isn't it? We'll colour through. Okay, I found her. Kush. Here she is. This little number is what she's wearing. Doesn't leave much to the imagination. Comes with the little earrings. Is she wearing the chain? She's wearing the chain. Oh, hello. This could be very cold. And one down there. We'll have to check it out on the catwalk and just see her strut her stuff.
see lots of variety this week.
Lots of variety this week.
Yeah, we've got everything from really dishevelled texture in the hair, where we're seeing lots of embellishment like we're doing here this evening with lots of sewing. We're also seeing lots of big sexy hair as well. So
okay, what, we're going for the J-Lo look or?
Oh, even bigger.
Bigger?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, closer to God.
Oh, we'll have to see that throughout the week.
Yeah, so
the opening's just, you know, sort of beachy kind of thing.
Yeah, it's the all-Australian girl with just a little bit of handicraft, you could say.
So you are doing a bit of sewing here.
Absolutely, sewing is in.
Now, I have a hole in my pair of jeans. Do you mind finishing that for me as well?
Oh, with pleasure. I think some of the girls would be more than happy to give you a hand there.
Okay. Well, there we go. Are you going to do all these sides like that or just the one?
I'm just going to do just through the front. Yeah.
Just these subtle little things throughout the hair.
Simplicity works every time.
With Sue. Now tell us a bit about the makeup.
Now, I'm launching my own range tonight.
Well, that's a big deal.
It is.
Opening a fashion week and launching your own makeup range.
Exactly.
What's it called?
It's called Juco Photo Makeup. We're all just nicknaming it Juco because
I think that abbreviation's better. Juco.
Slap the Juco on the face. Yes.
So what's different about this makeup compared to what's on the market?
Well, my brand is actually all designed around the latest colours for colour and finish. And
so we're going for blue at the moment. I'll just show you your hand there, just a little touch of colour. Oh, that's actually got a bit of shimmer through it.
Yes.
It's quite soft and powdery.
So we're working with all different types of finishes, a real mixture of finish. So there's a matte, as you can see, there's a shimmer plus with a matte. I don't know whether you can see that.
So you're doing all the girls tonight and throughout the week?
Yes.
That's a lot of makeup.
That's a lot of makeup. That's a lot of faces.
That is a lot of faces. Now, how much do the looks change through the day? Are they going to be same or just...
Oh, no. Every show, every designer, totally different look. Yes. So we're really honing in on each designer's the feel that they've got.
This stuff looks waterproof. It's not like it's going to come off in any rush.
No, I don't think so. It's Juco.
It's Juco. Stuck on, never off. Working up the men too, you know, like makeup wise or not?
Yes, we are.
Are they having
They're just having like more just bronzing done.
Is that a bit of a myth though? Guys don't need makeup or?
No.
Are you saying I need a lot?
I say nothing, then I won't get myself into trouble.
Get rid of my lines.
I'm a makeup artist, not a plastic surgeon.
You're nasty.
Close your eyes, I'll give you ice and shimmer.
Oh dear. Are you a fashion victim in general or not?
Oh, yeah, a victim. I have no idea how to coordinate clothes,
Really?
colours.
So you got a stylist who does all that?
No, I just sort of
Friends?
cross my fingers and hope for the best.
Really? So what are the labels you like?
Well, I like Scanlan Theodore. I like Bettina Liano.
Yes.
If I'm
What,
feeling
the jeans
funky.
or?
No, I don't have any of their jeans.
Really?
No.
The world famous Bettina Liano jeans and you don't have a pair.
Well, the Sass and Bide. I've got a pair of Sass and Bide. It took me about 5 months to get.
It's a bit like that, worth waiting for though.
Yeah, it's very worth waiting for.
Would you wait for something? Like, you know, in America, you've got the bags that you wait 5 years for. Would you do that?
Well, they might be out of fashion by the time they turn up, so probably not.
That's probably the key. You know, that for you is going to be 5 years. In other words, you're not going to get it ever.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what are the labels that you're wearing?
I'm wearing a Kira Izagawa at the moment. Actually, bridesmaid's dress.
Oh, okay. Are you trying to say something?
No.
You're always the bridesmaid.
No, I'm not on that bandwagon. So I'm wearing that, and I just sort of like simple pieces like Country Road, all your basics that are easy to coordinate.
Because you don't have to wear a lot of fashion being in the television industry.
Well, you always got someone else that dresses you when you're on the telly. It's just
do you
in real
see
life.
some of those clothes and say, oh, can I have that?
Yeah.
Where did you get it? Because I want to buy it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the easiest way. Oh, you've got a sussed. This is what the girls do when they wait backstage. They just sit here and gossip, don't you? What are you talking about?
We want to
About what?
You.
About me. Guy stuff, huh? Yeah? Did you check out the other guy models, or?
Yeah, we always check them out.
So, are you kind of like the girl models? Do the girl models date guy models, or are you just like normal people?
No, we
you don't
all
like
hate
models?
each other. Yeah. No, we're androids. We're model haters.
You're model haters, but don't models go with models?
Don't be a hater, Steph.
You're not a modelizer. You're not a modelizer. So you're all ready for the whole week?
Yes.
Yeah? All of you? Yeah. It will be a big week.
We're already tired.
Yeah, you're over it by what, third day?
Well, it's actually not even really the first day, and everyone's like, oh, it can't be long.
Yeah, fashion week again. Oh, please, I'm getting paid $800 an hour. I can't handle it. So how much they're telling you, they're paying you, how much the agency really getting is what I want to know.
Exactly. Who's ripping who off?
Yeah.
Conspiracy theories.
Because I got the deal. The agency says, you know, you got to do fashion week. You need the exposure. We can't really pay you that much. Meanwhile, they're probably paying $800 per model per show.
I think what happens more is that agents do bulk deals.
Bulk deals? Oh, book in 10 for a discount.
You've only booked 4 models, but if you book 10, we'll give them to you for $50 less.
Hi, I'm Tyrone, and I'm just sitting back here at my backstage, just finished hair and makeup, and yeah, we're about to do a fashion show. I think it's for Maya and Harper's Bazaar or something, I'm not really sure, but yeah. I'm wearing like 3 outfits tonight, and they're alright. I wouldn't wear them myself, but it's all good. I don't know. I don't really know what else to say.
Well, along with Fashion Week, become fashionable launches. We're here with the launch of Poster. It's a new magazine full of fabulousness. We'll just grab one actually from the racks. Here we go. Everybody's reading it. Oh, you're really getting into that article already.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Interesting?
Very interesting.
What's it about?
Some of the more interesting spots of Melbourne.
Oh, more interesting spots of Melbourne. That's what the mag's about, is it?
Have a bit of a look.
Have you hanged out there?
Nice photography in it.
On bar, yes.
On bar, yes. The Kitten Club.
Kitten Club.
Very intimate look, that one.
Oh, so glossy pics of nice places.
Very good.
There you go. We'll just wander around. It's a bit of a champagne drinking, sipping, ass-kissing sort of an event. Got a couple of designers. We've got Gwendolyn. How are you?
I am good.
How's things going for you? You doing anything for Fashion Week?
Not this time. I'm saving myself up for winter.
For winter, yes. Your last show was fantastic, I must say.
Thank you.
So what's your collection like for summer, though?
This summer?
Yeah.
Well, we've got a little...
Oh, there you go. You're showing them off already? Yes.
Christy's wearing an outfit and I'm wearing peace.
I love the top. Yes. Very nice.
Opulent, elegant, old worldy as usual.
So you're doing a lot of the things for Fashion Week, like watching shows and stuff like that, or?
Yeah, it's actually the first Fashion Week I've had off. And my very good friend Richard Nylon, who does the hats for my shows, he's got a solo show, so I'm helping him out with that. And it's just going to be fun.
So why'd you take a season off?
Well, I just showed in Beijing, New York, and London.
Oh,
and
say no more.
And I kind of
exhausted.
Yeah, I'm exhausted.
think they've just spiked some of the drinks, which is good. Oh, look who we got here. We got Tristan, formerly from Temptation Island. How's it going?
Pretty good.
You just been out and seen now, just, you know,
Yeah.
and smoozing?
Yeah, pretty much, you know, going out trying to have a good time.
You get more recognised now since the TV show, being on that?
Yeah,
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
A whole different demographic recognises me, and
like Australia-wide, you can't go anywhere without being noticed?
No, pretty much.
Has it been a good thing or a bad thing? You get slack or you get compliments? Or
No, all compliments.
Big Brother, some of them get just, you know, oh, you're from Big Brother, we don't want to know you, but...
No, it's all pretty good. They usually just come up and go, "Are you Tristan?" And then they go, "Are you really gay?" So yeah.
And you go, yeah, and they go, oh, really? You turn them down? Yeah. So where to from here? You have to wait for another Temptation show or something,
No.
You're on the Weakest Link and all that?
Yeah. I've done reality television. No more.
You had your 15 minutes, plus an extra minute on our show.
Exactly. This show is where I, you know...
Should be. This is where they all end up.
I aspire to. Yeah. This is the whole reason I went on Temptation Island.
Yeah. That's it. Now you're a part of it.
I've just come down for Sydney to do a show up in Melbourne. I'm just filling in time by reading a mag, Cosmopolitan.
Is it a good mag?
Yeah, no, it's not bad. It's good. Yeah, I'm just waiting for my colours to come out and...
What are you wearing?
Tonight I'm wearing a black dress, a white dress, and another dress, which I can't remember what colour it is. So yeah, no, it should be a good night.
Well, upstairs here at Maya, basically every day there's a fashion show going on. Some are free, some are invitation only. Tonight is upstairs at Maya. It is an invitation only. We're going to wander through, see the glamorous models, talk to some people, see what the models are up to backstage as well. Have a bit of fun. I'm trying to find some celebrities. I know Lillian Frank is here, but she's hiding out the back. The food is going around. It's beautiful food, I must say. Keep everybody happy, little sandwiches, lots of drinks, champagne's flowing. It's all a bit of fun. We'll go out the back and check out what they're doing. Talk to Brent. Brent, I know you're so busy. You're back here at Maya. You're doing the hair, fiddly stuff?
A little fiddly, and it's very hot in here.
It is.
And we're kind of running out of time.
Is that a bad thing, having it hot in here? Does it make it all wilt and...
Yeah, the humidity has something to do with it.
So what about the look you're trying to achieve?
I wanted to have like a really modern, kind of like a really sexy, a little bit of a 40s wave / kind of big LA hair, but you know, not kind of tacky, more.
Or with the gown, you've seen the gowns, obviously.
Yeah. So I mean, there was a huge cross section of fashion. I wanted something that the girls, it kind of moved when they walk. It wasn't solid and stiff and kind of. Do you know what I mean?
Is it hard because you don't get to choose the models, do you?
No, they're all done.
So if they're all got short hair, how does that fall into what you're doing?
Oh, that's just because I've got very magic fingers, actually.
Hey, we're here backstage at Mars Gross Brothers show. Yeah, we're having a lot of fun. Bit of sandwiches, chilling out, makeup, sandwiches. They do feed us, we do eat. And yeah, looking forward to the show.
Look at that concentration there. Tell me what you're doing. You're just doing eyes?
We're glowing. Sorry, we're bronzing the girls right up.
Yeah. Well, you can see that. Is that because she's too white or?
She's quite light, but all the girls, the runway, I believe, is a copper floor.
Yep.
So the girls need to blend in and...
So you're just the bronzer boy?
Yes, I am.
And we go over to the stages. You're what?
I'm
Cleanser?
moisturising.
Moisturiser?
Yeah.
You pass them over?
Nice and smooth and shiny.
She's already that.
She's beautiful.
You can't get bad skin in here. I want to see a pimple. Has anyone got a pimple in here? Now, what are you doing? What part of the process are you up to?
Oh, we're just putting on a base at the moment, actually.
Yep.
Just bronzing.
All the bronzing. How are we going for the eyes and stuff? Oh, here we go. Speaking of eyes, he's putting a lash on it while we speak.
Madam Lash.
Madam Lash. So they're all having a bit of eye work?
They are all having a bit of eye work.
Is this tricky?
It is tricky. It takes a higher level of concentration.
And a steady hand. I can see. We're going to get a zoom in on this one. Come on. No shake. This means...
Fully done.
This means you can't have a hard night the night before, hey? You'll be getting the shakes.
Yeah, that's right. And watch, because it was my birthday yesterday, so
Okay. Oh,
we're
so you must have had a hard one.
little
There you go. That's that glued on.
done.
Is that glue going to set? You just wipe it off with a bit of...
We're going to cover it up with a little bit of
liner.
Deeper sparkle.
You actually look great with lashes.
Oh, thanks.
You keep those on. Life after Big Brother is just one big party, is it?
Golden.
So, what's come of it since you left?
I've been a busy boy.
Yeah.
Out and about. I've been actually doing it with a mouthful of food. Oh, that's cool. Being part of it all. Yeah, someone joked that every time a letter opens, I'm there and whatnot. But
I am.
But why not?
Every time I write my own letters.
Actually, I think I've got one from you.
Oh, yeah?
Thanks for that, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Pretty good.
Yeah. So, is it dying down, or what do you want to do from here?
The appearance stuff is dying down, because sort of the Big Brother stuff's dying down, but the more you get out and about, you meet people, and that's why I'm here, because I did a thing for Myers last week.
Okay.
And they said, yeah, come down to this. I said, yeah,
Are you getting sick of it, or are you just loving it?
No, I love it. I've got uni on hold, family on hold, mates on hold, and I'm just doing my own thing, so...
That's the way to do it. And you're doing the whole fashion thing this week. I noticed you were at the opening.
I'm a fashionable guy. I love it.
We've got the Harper's Bazaar bag. That's obviously a freebie.
Yeah, it is actually.
Yes. Promotional bag. And plastic. Can I take it off for a minute? Slide it off. Because this bag is kind of see-through. And are you trying to show people what you've got in there, or?
Actually, I've got a few magazines from work.
Oh, you are a bit fashionable. Cosmo?
Yeah.
Not the Harper's? Because we are at the Harper's.
The Harper's is actually a bit overdue now. It came out like early in the month, so I wouldn't be carrying it yet.
Not a cool thing.
August, yeah. So
how long's the magazine last for?
Oh, a long time. Over a month, easily. Like, keep it for 6 months.
You got food in one hand, drink in the other. You're looking glamorous. Tell us about the outfit.
What would you like to know?
Well, where did you find this? You've got the bag, everything.
Do you really want the truth, or do you want?
Yeah, I want the truth. Go on.
Okay. Well, the bag came from a little op shop in South Melbourne. Is that what you really want?
Is it a designer?
Of course it is. It's from New York. Do you want to see the logo?
Okay. So how much did this cost you? Oh, there you go.
Well, I first saw it for $85, but I thought that was too much, so I waited till it went down to
Is there a level of how much a woman would spend on a handbag?
Never. God forbid. This
But $85.
down my lining. No.
What about the dress?
Well, the outfit was the boots I bought on sale. Everything's on sale. I never paid.
It's all vintage as well?
No, the boots were new.
Okay.
But the outfit, this coat dress was a second-hand one from American Rag, actually.
Oh, great. It's amazing. And it fits. That's hard to do, because finding something you like and actually fit in is the trick.
No, it's not. Everything
I go to the vintage shop, nothing fits. Like, they're like size 10.
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah.
Don't lie.
And the brooch?
Saying that. Oh, I forgot about that. But that's vintage too. And I got that from a little place in Greville Street.
I didn't think this could happen in Toowoomba. And then I saw it on TV that night. It really opened my eyes.
Whenever the community comes to us and says we need your help, we do whatever we can to assist.
It is a great feeling to be able to help your neighbours, to be able to help your community.
Each Lions member and each Lions club in different parts of the country, we're totally different. But we have core values that are the same. They remain the same for any Lions member and any Lions club anywhere in not just Australia but around the world.
Anything that you can think of that you want to do and support and help, Lions are doing it right now somewhere in this world.
I think Lions need to tell their story. They need to let people know the amazing things that they do.
The three major streams that we have in Lions are the community service that we do for the public, health and medical research, and the disaster relief.
We're out there to help people. If you love helping people, get out and help them. Join a Lions Club.
We started this project about 20 years ago. All this gear would normally go to the tip. We recycle it and give it to someone less fortunate and where it is needed in the world.
Being a Lion here in Australia means that I can make a difference to my community. But most importantly, it's inspiring other people to get out and be part of their community and make it a safer and a much happier and better place to live.
Childhood cancer, I've always been interested in cancer and small children from the time I first got cancer 30 years ago. Research is an indefinite item. You can't see it, but it helps so much.
I'm here managing the money and the relationships, but other people are out there raising funds and bringing in community support. Without all of us working together, we can't affect change.
2 more extra hands at any function, any working bee, anything we do, 2 more hands can help us raise more funds, can help us serve our community better.
I went to my Lions Club and I said, I got this idea and I think it's a little bit crazy, but I think we could raise some serious money doing it. And it was to run 100 kilometres. And the club said, okay, if you want to do this, whatever you need us to do, we'll be there 100%. And I'm pretty proud to say that together we raised just over $16,000. So we blew the target out of the water, and I think that was due to a lot of the support that I got.
Through my leadership training and all that, I've learned about thinking global, acting local, and Lions Club is definitely that kind of thing. They act within their communities, but the money that they raise can often end up in any corner of the world.
As an individual, I could only do so much, and whilst it was my burning desire to try and help these people, having an organisation such as the Lions family to call upon to support me and those people that were working with me just made it possible for us to achieve so much more.
You know, after the devastation, to come back into the community, you know, you were shattered by what you saw. You know, no police station, no post office, no petrol station, you know, no kindergarten. There was nothing here.
And all that water with an unstoppable.
I don't know that I've ever seen as much as arrived. There were fridges, washing machines, dryers. There was toasters, jugs, just everything.
To be invited to be a part of Lions just opened up a whole new world to me. A world that provided a structured organisation that could see that the hours that I volunteered could achieve so much more.
I think Lions is a wonderful organisation. The people in it have charity in their hearts.
I can go anywhere in this country, see somebody with a Lions badge, walk up to them and say, "Good day, you got a friend."
Never once in my life had I had a group of people where I could go to, say anything, and know that no matter what, they would be there, they would stand by me.
It's the family. That's what we call, it's the Lions family. Without Lions, I think I'd be lost now, because they've been my life.
We work hard, but the most important thing is we have fun.
The fellowship of all the members of the club, the broader community, it's just a tremendous organisation to belong to. You know, I'll be here till I die.
It is extremely rewarding and gratifying to be a part of an organisation that can spread its support so far and wide.
More members means more hands, means more support to the community.
I would encourage everyone just to give it a go and see if it is for them, because the return that you get for giving to others is amazing.
Get out there, do something wonderful, be part of this fantastic organisation.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed.video, a different sort of TV. The following program contains an MA classification and may contain adult themes and coarse language. MELfeed.video advises that it is suitable for viewers aged 15 plus.
I work in an office. This is called Writer's Office Block. This is a poem about silence. Silence is a virtue. If they're not said, words won't come back to hurt you. But here silence falls like a tree in the forest. Horrid and dishonest. Welcome to my office. See, my muse stopped turning up for work. So I fired him. The death of depth is an apt end to a story about a black hole, a ransacked soul, and a truth too beautiful to be told. How do you like my poem about silence? Saying nothing, meaning nothing, walking down a highway to nowhere. Good to see you, my friend. I'm fine. How do you fare? See? Silence. Worthless words that no wordsmith could work with to create anything worth knowing. For knowledge is power, and power corrupts. Or corruption empowers, glowers from the silence with a bunch of dead flowers, blue roses and red violets. Saying nothing, meaning nothing, noise, not words. And no imagery of birds could depict a world now devoid of flight and song, where right and wrong lost all relevance when my muse fired my conscience. I knew I shouldn't have made him vice president. It's nice, isn't it? When ulterior motives get demoted, devoted to this silence, I walk past the empty offices, empty promises and bad luck. Doors slammed shut. In more ways than one, my company is bankrupt. So I wrote a poem about silence. And I think I've said too much already. This is called Obsession. It's not about the perfume. Toy with the idea. Just play with it till it won't be up to you to stay with it till it blooms from your bedroom ceiling and it's guest starring when you get to dreaming, till it's the model that coolly reclines, follows you round like Mona Lisa's eyes, till you can't take no more of it, till you're fed up with feeding it and you're bored of it. Watch the clock tick down the time and you're not seen outside tonight. Instead, in bed by 9. Nothing you've got can compete with the fine cinema in the eye of your mind, since you realise fixation is the real spice of life. Dream of the scenes you want to do. It's a disease and few are immune, and you don't have a clue if you're mad or you're sick. Imagination, like a B-grade flick, you directed and wrote for the actors you picked. Each word is a quote from the start of the script, and you think, who needs illustrations when you've got blueprints? Laugh as your whims become designs. Well, a person's gotta try, and you've had such a long goodbye to Mr. Nice Guy since these thoughts learned to walk, grew wings of sorts and tried to fly. Obsession stays like the scent, plays with your head as you lay on your bed. Obsession won't let you forget, won't leave till you've left, won't help with the rent. It's actually not that bad till you blink, till you're happy or sad, till you eat, till you drink, till you walk, till you talk, till you breathe, till you think. Actually not that bad.
Storyville, notes for a poem on New Orleans and jazz. New Orleans, you got trams like Melbourne, you got jazz like New Orleans, you got Jelly Roll, you got 4 Bar then more, you got Buddy Bolden, his mama's scared, you got Spanish tinge, you got erotic motion, you got Jelly's great-grandmother, you tell her, you the night watchman, you the night watcher, white man, you got singing, you got piano, you got the Jelly Roll blues, you got Ravi music, you got Storyville, you got Jasmine, so sweet in the air it sends you crazy, you call it jazz. You got film and speeded up motion, you got heat and high emotion. You got Sidney Bechet, the poet of New Orleans music, Creole music. At 10 years old, at 16 you leave school and bring your personality to your instrument. You love the lonesome blues through your horn. You find notes no one even suspected were in that thing. You got the Victor Victrola 1901, no one thinks of recording jazz. After Buddy you have Freddie Kepler laughing through the wah-wah moots in 1914, the original Creole orchestra hits LA and buses to Chicago. He's very big, very strong. Your mute fly out your trumpet onto the dance floor. If the paper's in it, it never happened before. You frightened other people, steal your stuff. February 26, 1917, the original Dixieland Orchestra, 5 white musicians led by Nick LaRocca play Dixieland one step. You play horses, you play roosters, you play Around on Record. First time in history, 250,000 copies at 50 cents each. Then you get Influenza, you got Nervous Breakdown, you got Construction, no one ever know you play music. You got Buddy locked up in the Jacksonville Insane Asylum. His mama gets so scared she called the police. He never played the horn again. You got to excuse me right now. I gotta get some sleep, you know what I mean?
Sickness. Which would you rather be, a sick person or a sinner? In truth, they are but different names for the same thing. We think we are oh so enlightened. We no longer have the Inquisition. We've replaced it with psychiatry. But it's still all about labels. Which would you rather be, possessed by a demon or emotionally unstable? I suppose there's some advantage to our modern enlightened age. At least being drugged or sectioned has got to be better than being burnt at the stake.
One in 5 of us are affected.
10% of us will have at least one.
And the numbers double for Indigenous Australians.
Just as quick as a click of your fingers, it can happen to anyone at any time.
What would you do if someone close to you was having a seizure?
Imagine if it was your child.
My brother has it. My sister has it.
I have it.
I have it too.
You're not alone.
You're not different.
And you have a bright future ahead of you.
So click for kids.
I'm Amy Lee, and I'm part of it.
1 in 5.
Behind every great athlete, there is a great support network. Australian Athletes with a Disability and Wheelchair Sports Australia help athletes realise their full potential.
Gonna go from 3. Yes!
No matter their ability, we're there to support them. Sporting opportunities for all abilities. For more information, visit sports.org.au.
Every minute.
Every hour.
Every mother and father.
Every sister and brother.
Every son and every daughter.
Everyone you see.
Everyone you cheer.
Everyone you watch. And everyone you hear.
Everyone you meet.
Everyone you know.
Everyone you love.
Everyone is affected.
Reach out and get connected.
What I love about Australia is Adelaide Central Market. It's where I grew up, hanging out with Mum and great Auntie Kim. I see a lot of migrants buying ingredients that they need to cook dishes that remind them of their culture. And I think that's why food is such a powerful thing when it comes to people understanding each other. On Australia Day, I'm going to come to the market, buy some beautiful produce, take it home, crank out the pizza oven and have a little pool party with my mates.
Get together on Australia Day. Go to australiaday.org.au to find out how.
I wrote a poem about a conversation, and it's called To Be Continued. You told me, juxtaposed, fully clothed, but all I saw were action heroes in torn tatters, glistening with sweat and taking matters into their own hands, knives between their teeth. And this little piggy had roast beef, and this little piggy had none, and how does the rest of it go? I don't know, but finding out will be fun. Your finger traced circles on my hand, swirling whirlpools made of sand. And I smiled through my thirst, and the dam burst, and the action heroes fought. And it's so much more beautiful, and so much worse than you thought. Thank you.
Bitter man with bitter hands jammed in bitter pockets, lemon smile upon his lips, eyes sunk in bitter sockets. Viper's tongue flicks in and out between sarcastic chuckles, resentment dances pointy heels upon his bitter knuckles. Disdain and envy slink behind his every observation. Bitter man sweats vinegar and exhales indignation. He waits until you've left the room, then hisses with disgust at all the things you shouldn't do and all the things you must. His eyes shine coldly, relishing the bitter words he speaks. When you return, his knife-sharp smile clicks back into his cheeks. He struts away come evening, back to his bitter home. His venom stings, no wonder, bitter man is all alone.
This is called They Kill Them. They kill them. In the end, they kill them. They push them, but hope they don't get out. Freeing homes from foundations, liberating limbs from lives and consciousness with a cackle of bombs raining down. They kill them. In the end, they kill them. They cut the queue, shut the gate, force another route. They watch them sink on the way. If they make it this far, they kill them from the inside, push them so far they want to die. Fragrant poison slide down their throat, choke, they want to choke. Or bring the razor wire right to their skin. They cannot wait indefinite years. Mattresses all around. Jump. They tell them to jump. They kill them. In the end, they kill them. Or at least hide them, bury them in deserts, behind fences, ignored and forgotten, eroding their humanity away. Unless they can't be pacified and we join them, pulling the fences wide. They can't kill them. In the end, they can't kill them. Them and us rip these cages from their foundations, liberate their lives with their limbs. They'll starve, force you to want them to eat, force you to take to the streets. They'll starve to show you that they're still alive. They can't kill them. In the end, they can't kill them. These memories won't go away. These images won't go away. The very fact that they're human will not go away. This struggle with us, with razor wire cast aside, will not die. They can't kill them. In the end, they can't kill them.
This is a piece by Dara Cousins. Grief. In India, when someone dies, they wail. You hear the sorrow of the universe. I have seen a procession of men carry away a small child on a stretcher, and the mother and her sisters and aunts stood in the street with hands outstretched, pleading to bring the child back. I don't get why we cry so quietly in this country. I don't know why there is no screaming in church. I don't know why people are polite at funerals, pleased to see you and at least pretending to be untouched.
It's called enjambment. Saffron, saturated sighs, crimson lips mouthing her heart's pleasure golden. Silky. Oak ore brushing teeth of quiet wet smile, washing the scent of seashore. Rose. Caressing swollen summer fig leaf fruit, swirling leopard skin print silk. Waving. Dragon wings revealing thighs, lifting shift perfume-filled breath beneath. Underside. Glancing eyes, sweet nothing, her sweet damp forest floor, mouthing soft. Scented. Pawpaw salad swayings, drenched rain skin amberlings, moving to and fro. Toward. Panther muscle music, thick warm murmuring, offering everything. Everything. Sweet nothing, sweet offering, gentle purple bougainvillea opening. Light. Bruising bite across her tissues a dress, fluttering wings against her white. Agapanthus. Love's flower raising her colour, praising summer season of beginnings. Joy, green. Mouthfuls of liquid melody lift fearful Samothrace anxieties, fleeing thee. Pathway. Gleeful, pool-washed spider running past your batik skirt into the willing. Bamboo. Green landscape wedges of baked French pear marinated in marsanne. Hemispheres. Roasted walnut brain soaked in a sauce of blue vein cheese, noble rot. Wine. Fresh red globes of cherry plum rocket, red oak leaf lettuce covered in fingers. Of rum, of raisin, of dark chocolate, a 2-year-old salad by the pool. A Dalai Lama's cheerful exuberance imparted on a smile. A love child's grin, glowing green eyes, past cancers. Dismissal.
It's barbie season, so it's time for a barbecue safety check. Clean away any grease build-up. Swap systems assure that the bottle inspection is in date. The bottle should be upright and not hanging by the hose. And make sure your regulator and hose is undamaged, unblocked and unkinked. Check connections using soapy water. When done, turn off clockwise at the bottle first. A quick Barbie and gas safety check always means a safe and enjoyable summer.
Would your life be different if you chose to swim between the flags instead of that unpatrolled beach? If you'd checked the depth before you dived into shallow water, if you didn't swim under the influence of alcohol and chose not to swim at night, if you only listened to the lifesavers warnings.
Make the right choice this summer. Enjoy our beautiful beaches. Always swim between the red and yellow flags.
If we can't see you, we can't save you.
If you choose to drive when overtired,
you could ruin lives.
Someone else's, your family's, or your own.
Choose a power nap instead.
The right choice could save someone's life.
Proud supporters of safety in our community.
GMCU and Southern Cross Austereo.
This one's called Single and Lonely. Synesthesia means you can look down at your ring finger and hear a dial tone. Find footholds in fresh air, footfalls in empty alleys, and not run. But it always boils back down to concrete. 16 strangers saw you trip over the raised part of the path, and now they won't ask you to the dance. That's okay. Poetry means the tabby cats with bony wings and oily cheeks weave around your ankles, while Gabriel and Michael and even Azrael stand in glass cases in porcelain galleries, while the young bright things count them as friends, count them close as calories, while you are always just an acquaintance. But then it boils back down to real. Saying hi when the train goes by and drowns you out, but somehow you keep on swimming. Day into night, into day, into white, wide, apocalyptic horizons, but no desperate matches lit. You stumble down real concrete paths with tabby cats to catch on your footfalls. It always boils back down to the dial tone, the empty ring finger, the glass cases. One stranger saw you trip, wants to ask you to the dance, but he's married. Mission statement. We live in an information society, so our solutions must operationalise the leverage afforded by value adding in order to achieve our mission-critical initiatives. We must take a holistic, proactive approach if we are to touch base with a new paradigm. Limiting me time and maintaining an innovative workspace will be instrumental in minimising opportunity cost. Logistically, our outcomes should embody modularity and empowerment and facilitate networking within our wider framework if we hope to implement dynamic next-gen synergy.
It's called the new model of factory. There is a new model of factory developed in the 1980s Its presence has spread with vicious intent till it threatens to pollute every city on the earth. Its walls engulf the lives of men and women, young and old alike, school leavers embarking on their first working adventure, or arts graduates whose degrees have not spurred them to the heights of professionalism they once aspired to, or the middle-aged displaced by restructured illusions. These are the thousands who are sucked into the factory doors. This factory does not appear as a traditional image of smoking, churning black chimneys, the hellish roar of clunking machinery, workers sweated across vast production lines, but its inner workings, its darkened heart beats the same rhythm of drudgery and torment, only modernised, technologised, sterilised, customer server-sized. I work in such a factory. Mine is very large, level upon level of identical organisation. Layered rows of cubicalized units line each floor. Each unit comprises 1.5 metres length and 1.7 metres width. Insert chair 180 degrees on which is placed one operator on top a communication device 30 centimetres in front, in place flashing screens of numbers and codes. Upon arrival to this factory, future operators are often of human form. Many possess personalities, emotions, and some even free will. But much has to be reversed and adjusted to maintain utmost performance. New applicants receive 4 weeks of intensive programming. Experts integrate the logic of Fordism into their every movement, their every thought. Their names are replaced and each issued with a number used to track every function completed. Thin layers of grade A steel are applied to cover their bodies to assist to mechanise their movements and their minds. They are indoctrinated to believe that they have but one goal now: to operate by the laws governed through that holy script, Key Performance Index. Once these processes are complete, they are thoroughly tested to ensure no defections will reach the office floor. Now in action, the days will consist of monotonous exactness of repeated verbal phrases and mouse and keyboard motions, specifically scripted and designed to service customers in the most timely manner. The automated production line of calls, or as termed queues, will commence the second of shift start time, and you are alerted as such to the start of each round by beep, beep, welcome to the bank, greet complete, nature of inquiry established, decide, will service or transfer to higher skilled robotics department, complete inquiry, wrap call. Once process is complete, wrap, insert, back, beep, welcome to the bank. A cacophony, a cannon shifts into the air-conditioned environment. Welcome, this is 1089. Welcome, this is the bank. 5678, is that your only inquiry? Thanks for banking. Each operator works a shift at 8.5 hours. 1 hour is allocated to a necessary refueling of caffeine or nicotine. Break periods are monitored to the second. If malfunction occurs, necessary adjustments will be made by operator technicians called team leaders, who can use many means such as psychological abuse and fear to correct operator mistakes. Their role is also to ensure all operational targets are maintained at all time: transfer rate, hold time, occupancy, adherence. Example, KPI, AHT, average handling time, 130 seconds. This results in each operator receiving 225 calls a day, or 54,000 a year, and an expenditure of only $45,000 per year. This enables a large profit to be generated. This profit is then collected and sent to a place called corporate, where fat cats sit on a mountain of gold sipping fine wine. But accumulation is needed by the bank to ensure expansion of business and further profits, and also to ensure each board member has at least 3 mansions and a yacht. All calls are recorded. Quality assurance, a department similar to Big Brother, can listen to any call at any time. They will assess for a month. You will receive a percentage based on 16 different criteria fields. Below 85% is a fail. Any below target results fielded by an operator will consequently lead to said operator being labelled dysfunctional, and a specialised program of constant harassment termed performance management will commence. In the 3.5 seconds in between calls, I can sometimes feel the heart which still thrusts under the weight of my robotic appendages. I dream of breaking free from my bondage, and I think of that spanner in my bag the spanner in the works, that one day I will take out and carefully under the bolts that enclose this metal sheeting, I will awaken from my cocoon. And I will pass the spanner to the unit next to me, and they will pass it to the next, until we are free to roam the open skies. And the cogs will stop turning, and the money will stop flowing, the profits stop churning. We will be released, and those fat cats will have a fucking heart attack. Thanks.
Live streamed from Echuca each week, this is MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. Live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV. live streamed from Echuca each week, MELfeed Video, a different sort of TV.
They say there's a chance I could die in a car crash, maybe even from heart disease, maybe even skin cancer.
I could die in a work-related accident, or I could die in a fight.
The fact is, the biggest cause of death for men in my age group is suicide.
Please don't let this happen to me.
You can do something. Lifeline believes that suicide is mostly preventable. Help us save lives. Find out what you can do at lifeline.org.au.
MELfeed Video is about to close operations for tonight, but we'll be back with you next Monday evening. In the meantime, here is a selection of programs that will be seen on our next scheduled web stream. You're welcome to visit our website at MELfeed.video for further details of this project. Until next time, from all of us here at MELfeed Video, we wish you a very good night.